Hey sis, welcome back to Black Gyrl SOS. It's your girl Snobby. And as always, I only bring you the best of the best. So my dear, introduce yourself.
Oh man, my name is Latoya Shauntay Snell. I'm the food and fitness blogger of Running Fat Chef, and I've been doing this crazy circus, at least the blog, since 2016. And nobody could have told me that I would be going from the culinary field to becoming a whole plus size, profanity
Model.
laced
Model.
model. Yes, we have to emphasize it's not model, no,
Yes.
model. Okay. Activists, like I don't even know how to even box myself. I won't even box myself. Like I'm a full
Good.
circle, and that's literally like been my entire vibe since what 2013 of being in the athletic community. I can't even like box myself in and say that I'm only a runner, so it's been a very interesting journey.
That's what's up. Here we do not support boxing Black women in. That's not a thing.
Right.
So
Mm.
you nailed that because that is
Say it
not
again.
supported in the queendom. In the queendom, you are many things and all things at all times. So
Right, right. Because it's too many things and too many labels society already hit us with. I mean, when people call me,
louder for the people in the mezzanine.
hello, hello. Listen, like I mean, when people are like, oh, you're an angry Black woman, I'm like, yeah, you damn right, I'm angry. I'm
Bitch, I'm
angry.
super
I'm mad.
angry.
Right. I have a lot of shit to be angry. But see, when y'all do it, when any other
Right.
people do it, they don't label it as angry white woman, the angry Latino. No, it's just
Correct.
you're angry and it's justified. So we got to start normalizing this shit. That hey, you know
Listen,
what? Our feelings are
I did a
valid.
whole I did a whole thing about angry Black woman.
Mm,
Because it's a real thing.
right,
And I get to be angry.
right,
I get to be that and I get to own that. And you don't get to make it a
right,
negative trait. If some fucked up shit happens to me, I get to be angry about that. I get to be a whole person. That's the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent.
right.
And if you make me angry, guess what? I am fucking angry.
Angry, right. And it's valid and it's completely
The
valid. I
end.
mean, but anything that's on Black people, we're typically, especially with women, we're
Yes,
typically, is weaponized against us. But when someone else
absolutely.
does it, like when it comes to the big ass, the small waist, or the big lips, it's like it's
Shit, when it
terrible
comes to
and
locks,
it's
when it
ghetto.
comes to locks,
It's ghetto.
everything,
It's
everything.
it's the whole it's the whole trash. It's the whole ghetto. But the moment someone else do it, it's not it's not braids anymore. It's not box braids. No, it's boxer braids.
Boxer braids.
Please don't get me started. Um,
Girl, when I tell you I got
oh,
into the shits with some people on
mm,
Instagram about that when the boxer braids came out,
mm,
I know you
mm,
fucking lying.
mm.
I know.
Listen, listen.
Listen,
How many jobs I got turned away from before even becoming a sponsored athlete and being told like, "Are you sure you want to walk around with locks? Do you not
you
have a
know what's funny?
wig?"
When I went to law school, I went to law school with my locks up until I would say up until 2020. My LinkedIn page was my photo was from a photo shoot I did in law school when I was like on um, regional council for the Black Law Student Association.
Hey,
I was in my locks. That shit
right.
was on LinkedIn up until like literally maybe about 5 months ago.
I
I
hear
want y'all to
that.
be very clear that when you are headhunting this Black attorney, she black.
Right,
She
right,
not fake Black. She not
right.
pretend Black. She black.
Black, right,
Locks, Black. Listen,
right,
of the roots.
right,
So yeah, nah. I like that shit. That shit was a trigger. That boxer
right,
braid shit
right.
sent me through the roof.
Please, 2020 was a whole ass trigger. Like I mean,
Girl,
the fake activism, the people only knowing allyship by actually spelling it. If I hear DEI one more damn time out of people who only can spell the words diversity, equity, and inclusion, I might lose my mind. Hey, how do I interact with Black people? I don't know. How do you interact with white
with
people?
other
Well,
people,
like I
motherfucker.
mean, it's just so terrible because like the idea of people not knowing how to not even understand, because I don't think you can never understand that experience unless you live through it, but
Mm-hmm.
to be able to empathize, and you need a manual and how to empathize with people who are still being oppressed. Like I mean, how many lists do I need
Well,
to
this
be
is why
on
I was pissed off. This is why I was pissed off with people, in my opinion, begging for allyship. First of all, the word
right.
means friend, right? So either
Mm.
you know how to be a friend or you do not. So I don't need to beg you to be my friend. If you don't know how to be a friend, your parent dropped
Right,
the fucking ball. I
right,
cannot remediate the
right,
issue of bad parenting. I can't fix that. You not knowing how to be a friend is your issue. I don't need to ask you to do that. Either you see something fucked up happening to me that you would not want happening to you, and you feel like, yo, I should intervene, or you don't. There's nothing that you need to be coached on. This shit is color by numbers. You either want to do it or you don't want to do it. But I'm not going to sit you down and walk you through it. And certainly, I don't need to educate you on this country's history and systemic racism. You're not going to tell me you don't see color because you're telling me you don't see me because I showed up brown as fuck. I showed up pigmented in HD. So don't tell me you don't see color. Like, we're not going to play that game. That's the shit that like really, really sends me. We're not going to do that.
And the thing is, like, here's my thing. Like, there's just so many layers to it. Like, for me, I don't even like being lumped underneath the term of people of color. I'm just like, I'm black is black because there are, and this is not to take away from any other marginalized community, but I can only speak from the one that I'm in. There's been times where, like, when we actually go into allyship, there's things that's like, all right, I can be your ally because, you know, I'm from a different community and I see what's going on and I'm trying to educate myself along the way. This and this, and then you have these people that just want you to hold their hand the entire process. However, you have people who are, quote unquote, people of color who do not see your color, and they pull that same language, and that's where I find it super problematic to put everybody underneath a box. I cannot say as a black woman that I understand completely the Asian experience. I cannot say as a black woman that I understand completely the Latino experience, even though I have Latino roots. That I'm unfortunately slavery. I don't know where the hell my family's from. As far as I'm concerned, my family is black and Cuban. I do not know them, and that's a lot of black people's history.
That's me as well. That's me as well.
You know, so when I hear that term thrown around so loosely, I'm an ally. I'm just like, what else besides, paying into allyship, because that's the new thing. That's the new trend with a lot of these businesses. Oh, I donated, money to the NAACP.
Oh, for sure.
Now I'm going to throw up a black fist.
I had a couple of women on here, 2 women that I really, really like, love and admire, really think highly of, and they're both executives in their careers. And we got into this conversation because this was like at the height of everyone basically trying to buy allyship. And my thing is, first of all, I'm a capitalist at heart, and I'll tell you all the time, secure a bag. If someone's going to give you a director of diversity spot with a couple $100,000 attached to it, take their money by all means. But when you get there, make sure that your seat at the table is a substantive one, because what they're going to try to do is give you this title and not give you any actual authority attached to this title. Like, the shit is bullshit. It's a bought role. When you get there, it's your responsibility to add the substance to it. You have to make sure that that role is substantive. It can't be that, well, I got this title and, I showed up on a panel and said I'm the director of this, but you haven't actually done anything. Like, that's some shit that I have a problem with. And that's across the board. That's not just with outside of our race. That's inside of our race also. Baby. And then also to the point that you made about having allyship with other people of color, we have that issue under our own Black umbrella, right? Because Black is not a monolith. We have that issue with people who are African and moved here. We have that issue with people who are West Indian and moved here. I tell this story, or I used to tell this story when I used to teach, of how for a long time I had friends who, I had African friends who would never bring me home to meet their parents because I was American. And their parents had like preconditioned notions about what the way Americans were. I grew up in the Bronx, so y'all know I got 550 million. Basically, I was Latino whether I wanted to be or not, because I grew up in the Bronx.
Hello. And right now with the locks, everybody assume, like, the first thing people say is like, "Are you Jamaican because you have locks?" I'm like, hold up. I'm like, stop that. I'm like, listen, I know Jamaica Queens. That's as far as we go back. Okay, let's not.
But even growing up in the Bronx, I many obviously Latino friends, and many times, and I have great relationships with the people I grew up with and with their parents. But many times when I was younger, I heard like grandparents say, "Oh, she's a cute girl. She'd be cuter if she was light skinned." Like, like these things happen under the Black umbrella too. Like, these things all happen under the Black umbrella, and it's all problematic as fuck. And
And like, I mean, and the thing is, when it comes down to allyship, like if you're going to talk about like, within the community, when it comes down to the conversations between men and women, the
Oh,
conversations are
girl,
completely toxic at times,
girl.
where sometimes
I
you'll
don't even
listen to
consider them
men.
conversations most of the
Oh
time.
no, it's completely hostile.
Yeah.
I mean, because I laugh at this, and I mean, I laugh in a way that comedians make jokes about real life shit where it's just that deep hurt that we're
Hmm.
laughing at, collectively laughing at. I
Yeah.
remember in 2019, I went from 2018, I was being uplifted. 2019, I was on everybody's cancel culture list, and this was not just white America canceling
Well,
me. This was
Jay-Z
black
always says
people.
you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Hello. Hello. It's like people are
That's a
afraid
real
to see
thing.
you succeed. People don't want to see you,
Well, they
prosper.
want to
And
see
I'm
you
just
from their level of comfort. And that's with
right.
everybody. It's from whatever level that they're
But
comfortable with
but
you.
fuck your
And
pillow. Like fuck
exactly. And nine times out of 10,
like
their comfort is some fucking insecurity that they're
right.
projecting onto you.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck your pillow. I mean, the thing is, like, I remind people, especially now, like when I see how 2020 transpired, and now we're in 2021, and I went from she's possibly a cheater at a marathon because I run slow and sometimes I don't make cutoffs, but I'm like, you don't even know why I showed up, but
Yeah.
that's whatever. That's aside from the point. But 2019, I had people who was like, oh, you need to get her from being sponsored. I'm going to complain every place that she's at. To 2020, I went from that to let's put her in a magazine.
Right.
Let's say that, oh my God, she's like so inspiring. Don't get me wrong, she does have she has a little bit of a loose mouth. Oh, now it's acceptable. Now it's acceptable because last year
Well,
I
you
was
know
being
what?
called a hood bugger.
I'm glad you brought that up because that is definitely one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about. I wanted to
Right,
talk to you about. So really quick, let me just tell you all how I know this queen. New York City runners, honestly, at one point or another, we all run into each other.
right.
The great thing about Instagram was if you didn't know that there were other Black people running before, Instagram kind of threw us all together and gave us an opportunity to find each other. And so I
Right.
found her on Instagram and started following her literally just because she said whatever the fuck was on her mind. That's why I
Right.
started following. I was like, oh, see, this is my kind of people. This is the kind of shit I fuck with. And so, yeah, let me go ahead and click the follow button. Seen her at a couple of races. We had a couple of conversations, and I
Right.
was like, okay, she's got one personality like me. Who you get online is who you get in
Yes.
person. That resonates with me. I was like, okay, see, I like sis. Sis is all right with me. So I wanted to ask because of that,
Yeah.
how do you kind of, first of all, do you, and if you do, how do you decide who you're going to work with? Some people work with everybody, right? They're like,
Mm-mm.
oh, if I get a sponsorship,
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna fuck with everybody. Is that
Mm-mm.
your approach, or do you really kind of like
Hell
sift
no.
through and siphon out who you're going to really work with, who's aligned with you?
Listen, if you start associating with everybody, people just start looking at you as a pick me bitch, and I'm just gonna call a spade a
Yeah.
spade. Like you have to be selective, not just because it's a good business approach to be selective. You want to be in demand, especially when this is your livelihood. In my case, it essentially turned into my livelihood. I was trying to walk away from this space
Yeah.
when 2017 New York City Marathon. I got heckled. I put my story out there with the Root because they hit me up and they was like, hey, we're willing to pay you for your story. And I'm like, wait, hold up. You're willing to pay me for something I already talk about for free? All right, cool.
Right.
You know what? Not a problem. I can write 800 words.
Secure
I'm kind
all
of
the bags.
long-winded. Right. Like I was like, I'm kind of long-winded. I'm more like a 2,500 word for, kind of girl, but I can turn this down to 800.
We'll
What I didn't,
condense it.
yeah, but I had no idea. Like
Yeah.
nobody could have prepared me for the circus that I was going to walk into. And the thing is, contrary to belief, I know what it is to be in the media. I've basically been behind the scenes for 10 years, but I was comfortable being behind the scenes because I was able to see what cancel culture was before they actually coined it as an actual term. I've
Yeah.
heard from people who were, their entire livelihood was in the limelight. And I'm talking about before the height of social media really kicking off the way it was. And I was like, I want nothing to do with this space. I
Yeah.
don't want, people to love me so much they hate me.
Right.
They hate me like family, because that's exactly what this feels
Mhm.
like.
It's
So like
personal. It feels very personal from
it
strangers.
is. It is. Like it's very personal because people feel obligated to ask you which or whatever questions.
They feel
And
entitled.
then when you start,
Entitled.
Right. And then when you start asserting those boundaries, then you're a bitch.
Yeah.
How dare you not, offer yourself up on the shopping block for me? So when it comes down to working with brands, I need a brand to respect the human, not the brand that I'm representing out there. Like Running Fat Chef is a brand.
Yeah.
But Latoya Shauntay Snell is a whole ass human.
I know
And
that's right.
if you can't respect Latoya Shauntay Snell, you will never ever even scratch a sniff of the Running Fat Chef. And it's just that simple. Like, because there's the problem is like, I could put this out there because I already put it out there last year. When
Mhm.
this whole, when 2020 started, when we started talking about Ahmaud Arbery, talking about George Floyd, and we were all talking about, oh my God, I can't believe this is still happening because, according to some of white America, they're like,
I
oh
was
my
like, they
God,
were saying, "Oh my God," we were saying this is a Tuesday.
right. Oh my God, like this crime never happens here. Well, bitch, where have you been? Like what glasses have you been wearing? Because I
Right.
want that shit, for about 5 minutes because it's triggering every day as a Black
Yes.
person, as a person
Absolutely.
walking around, living and breathing in this skin. You are hostile when you walk in the room before you even
Hmm.
open your mouth. So when
Hmm.
I started recognizing that, particularly a brand, Ultimate Direction, that I was with them what 2019, and they started off really great. Like they were really inclusive. I don't know what the hell happened in 2020. I started talking to different people. All of a sudden the person that brought me into the company wasn't there anymore.
Well, that's
And
what happened. Now we know what happened.
right. So, and the thing is, like, for me, I'm always careful about what I say because I'm like, I don't need to fuck around and get sued,
Yeah.
so I can only go off of what was given to me.
Yeah.
When I learned that the statement that they left for George Floyd was 2 sentences, I basically was like, why did you bother?
Right.
Why did you bother? Especially since out of 40 plus ambassadors, I literally was the only Black, fat, queer woman on your ticket, a woman with disabilities. And all I kept saying to myself is, I didn't realize I got tokenized until I realized I got tokenized.
Right.
And it's a shitty feeling because I know I'm familiar with it. And the thing is, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the last time I'm going to be tokenized until
Yeah.
there's true diversity and inclusion in this space. I know that I'm going to be tokenized for something. And that's the reality of being in the media, is something that I'm not saying that you should embrace. You will have to challenge it every chance you get, that you have to challenge it. When it comes down to someone like me walking onto a set and I have to ask in advance, do you have a hairstylist that actually know how to deal with my hair? Oh,
Right.
the moment that you say braids, oh, I know you got me fucked up. Oh, I
My
love
dear, braids, they are not.
these are not braids, honey. Is your
But
hair
you brought up a really good point in saying that you realize you were tokenized and you understand that it's not going to be the last time.
right?
Because I was really curious as to what was the mind space that led you to doing the Runner's World interview and participating in that,
Whew.
because I was extremely vocal. I'm going to remain vocal.
You should.
Fuck Runner's World. They could eat a whole ass dick with A's on the tip and Mercer on the shaft.
Oof.
I'm never ever fucking with them.
Oh shit.
They are intentionally uninclusive, and all of this shit now is like equivalent to putting up a black box on Instagram. You don't mean it. You
Mm,
doing it because you got caught. If nobody called your ass out, you would have kept doing the same thing you were doing. And because in running the sport is dominated by black bodies
right.
in every fucking distance, we dominate the sport.
Right.
So to leave us out is
Right.
intentional.
Right.
You know what you're doing. You meant to do it. So you saying fuck me and I'm saying fuck you.
Right.
So I was I'm always happy for any success that people I fuck with have. That's just a default way that
Right.
I am. So I was super happy when I seen it. Of course, I was super curious as to why. I wonder what made her
Yeah. No. And
even
I'm
fuck
glad you.
with them.
No. I'm glad
But
you.
like I told you when I reached out to you, I said, I'm not buying this shit though. This is not this is not getting purchased. I'm gonna snap a picture of that shit when I see it on the
Listen,
newsstand, but I'm not buying this shit. They'll never get another dollar out of me
I
ever.
understand. I understand, and that's what kept me conflicted. For one, when they reached out to me, I was super hesitant, and this is something that I've put out there countless times, because particularly because I was on the same stance as you back in May. In
Mhm.
May, everybody was doing this whole thing of changing the
With the
cover to Runner's
covers,
World,
yeah,
and I had a couple of followers. It's like, oh. but this person did a cover and this person did a cover. I literally, and I can still remember the post. I think it was May 30th, 2020. I put up on there and I was like, Runners World know how to find me. If you want me on a cover, you know how to find me.
Right.
I was like, I'm not making no fucking cover. I'm not making a
Right.
pretend cover for a company that may not want me. Why should I make a cover when you know how to find me? You can find
Correct.
everybody else, then you can find me. I'm not going to see, the thing is, I'm going to adopt what I saw the Black Elation put up on his Instagram. Fuck your table. I don't want,
Okay, because that's
I
a
don't,
big move. That's a big.
fuck your
First of all, my
table.
mother's in construction, bitch. I'll
Right.
build a table. I
Right.
don't need
I can
yours.
build my own table.
I
I'm
don't
the
need yours.
architect. I'm the designer.
Correct.
I'm the CEO
Correct.
of this fucking table. And I can
Correct.
boot people from this table. Like, shit, I will be the Black apprentice without the
That
racism.
that's the
So,
part.
like, you know, so
That's the
my
part.
whole thing was, why should I beg for something that I've already proven myself over and over again
Yes.
that I am just as, you know, demanded in this space as any other white person. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not an elite athlete. I will not sit here and put myself in the same category, but I do not desire to be an elite athlete.
Right.
Whatever they do, you know, to keep themselves going, that's kudos to them. But I do shit my way. I go out there and I like to have fun. So when they reached out to me in email, I literally I took a step back and I was like, I don't know how to respond to this shit. I like, and this is just me, just, you know me, I'm saying it straight,
Yeah.
no chaser. You know, like, I really didn't know how to respond to this. I was like, why would they reach out to me? Like, I saw people who we personally know, in
Yeah.
this case, Allison Desir, you know,
Yeah.
all these people just like, what the fuck? Like, y'all didn't cover the George Floyd, you know, when
They didn't cover shit
when they cover
irrelevant.
Ahmaud Arbery. I'm like, you know, I remember being on the panel the year before in 2019. I sat on the panel for runner safety, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like, that's nice that you want to talk about, you know, being targeted.
That's the thing. They don't really cover anything that's DE or I. It's all bullshit.
But that's the reason why I felt like it was a need to actually jump in. Because I'm like, for me, it's not even about Runner's World. For me, the more that we can get people to actually speak up and demand that space, demand that you have no choice but to listen to us. You have no choice but to respect us, because you cannot emulate the fuck out of our culture and not respect where the culture comes from. You don't respect the history of it. And that's the problem with this country as a whole.
In totality.
Right.
In totality.
It's always convenience with people. So for me, I was just like, you know what? Well, how can I change the structure if I can? If they're giving me the seat to actually come in, to walk into the place and to redecorate the room, then let's do it. And the thing is, and I will say this bluntly, because I've said this openly to them, if I feel like or I smell like it's too much bullshit, that's my time to go. I'm going to put in my best effort to see what I can do. This for me, like, you know, is flattering, and is, you know, it's nice to put on a resume that, you know, I'm a Runners Alliance ambassador, but my pure intention of this is to really talk about inclusivity as a whole, to speak about it from a marginalized perspective, because the reality of it is the stats don't lie. There are a lot of people in this space who do still pick up Runner's World, despite how a lot of us who are in the space who are irritated with the fact that
that's for sure. This. But I mean, the reality is most people, let's keep it a buck. Most people really ain't built. You know what I'm saying? When I say that, I mean a lot of people talk like, yo, I'll stand on my own 2 feet, but they will not. They're not built to do it. They're not even built to do it. A lot of people need that approval, that confirmation, that affirmation. And I'm not one of those people. I never have been. Anybody that follows me on social media, if you've seen even one video of my mother, you know why I'm the way I am. In our household, we the shit already. I came out the womb the shit. I don't need no confirmation. The fact that the good Lord chose that woman to birth me and she's the shit means by default, I'm the shit.
I am the shit, right.
I am the shit. So I don't need to affirm me, confirm me, or anything else. I showed up like this. I showed up a bad bitch. I chose to share this bad bitchery with the rest of you. You're welcome. Like, but that's not, one, that's not most people, and two, that's not the running culture. In general, the running culture is built around kind of communal shit. Once you move outside of the elite space, once you move outside of elite and competitive running, it is a communal sport. It is very communal, and it's very cliquey. It becomes that very high school type of shit.
You
Don't
know, I
even
had
get me
that one back.
started because every time I get a runner on here, we start dragging New York City running, and I love
Oh,
my
please.
people,
Yeah.
but motherfuckers be asking for it.
Right. Yeah. No, and no, it's very true. Like,
I
I mean,
will say, I do want to know this though. Why running? Because I know how very what's the word I'm looking for? I know what kind of assholes runners are. I've been a runner my whole life. I was a
baby.
competitive runner when I was younger. I never, like, even after I stopped competing, I kept running. So I've always been a runner my entire life.
Right.
It is a sport full of assholes. I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of
It's
them.
a lot
I'm
of them.
absolutely an asshole. People, I take that L with grace.
Here's the reality of it. We're all assholes, but it's the way that you decide to be an asshole. And
Yeah.
for me, I find, like, especially with the internet and the way that we use social media, people have a lot of bark, but they ain't got no fucking bite in person.
Fact. Now that's facts on wax.
Yeah, and a lot of people do not like me because that same energy, if you think that I am that bad online,
right?
Oh, my life is worse in person. I'm like, baby, this is a 3D experience in person. I'm like, this is not this is not for play. I'm like, you have your rappers, who grew up in the suburbs and they talk about hood shit. And then there's people like me who grew up in the hood and I still talk about hood shit and I can show you what it look like. And that's what I am. I am a 3D experience. And I am not going to sit here and water myself down or have someone gaslight me and say, oh, I don't understand, or I don't think you deserve to be in this space because listen to all the profanity and this is, you're not going to do that shit. You're not going to do that shit, because if I wasn't deserving to be in this space, people would not be giving me a spotlight. And other people, the thing is, I'm not here to make it into your club or your initiation process. My whole thing is I build my own fucking tribe. And if you don't like the tribe that I rock with, then we can kick you the fuck out too. And there's a bunch of memberships to other places. And this is the reason why, as much as I started off loving being in run groups, I can't do it anymore.
What brought you to running at all, though? Were you a runner when you were younger?
No, hell no. There was the little.
So this is why I'm befuddled, because
bloomer.
I'm always befuddled at how adults get into running, because contrary to how people try to, let me tell you something. People love to say running's for everybody.
No, it's not.
And it's a sport that's open to everybody. That's bullshit. That's first of all, it's bullshit. It's a lie. Bullshit. Running is hella judgmental.
Right.
You are judged the minute you show up to a race on the way you look, on what you're wearing, if you're fast, if you're slow.
Right.
Do you run with these people? Do you run with that people? Like, running is hella not inclusive, okay?
But most of these sports aren't. That's the reality of it.
And so that's why when adults tell me that they didn't run as children, I'm like, well, where did you develop the love for running? Because that shit hurts. Running hurts.
Listen, I keep a spade a spade.
Good.
As much as I'm an activist, I'm an activist, and I don't even like saying the whole term body positive, because I think that the community has turned into trash at times when it comes down.
I always thought it was trash. I'm gonna be honest, because I felt like a lot of people use it as an excuse to be unhealthy. Because you can be proud of your body and still be healthy. Because that was my experience.
No, here's my thing. Like, the thing is, define unhealthy, because technically,
I can define unhealthy. I can define unhealthy, because unhealthy is not one thing for one person. Like, so when I watch your videos on Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think at one time we might have even been going to the same gym and just missing each other all the time when I used to live in Bed-Stuy.
Yes,
and I'm like, so I'm watching you. I'm like, first of all, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, sis got me beat by a mile, because I can't do no fucking push-ups. I'm telling y'all right now, all this upper body shit is quiet. It's fucking quiet. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. My fucking shoulder hurt looking at this shit. So no, I can tell you, because I know that it's not one size fits all. But if you're somebody who eats like shit, you're inactive, you don't do shit, but you like to get on Instagram, and these are people that I know in particular, which is why I said this is my experience. And then you want to get on Instagram and some bullshit that don't fit. You talk about, I'm body positive. No, bitch, you're shopping outside of your fucking size. You don't have the range, and you're fucking lazy. Because being healthy does not necessarily mean being thin. It don't even necessarily mean that you live in the gym. Shit, like I said, you can out-push me any day of the week.
Hold on. Because the other side of me is laughing, but now I got to put my activist hat on. Here's the thing. Okay. Let's take it back to the real term of this shit. The real definition of this is really just being happy in your own skin. That's all it's supposed to be. It ain't about health. It ain't about size. It's none of that shit. It's about embracing the skin you in. So if you wake up and you eat chicken McNuggets, then that's your prerogative. When it comes to the politics of it, that's when that's what the areas that I want to actually talk more about. Because the thing is, someone looks at me and it doesn't matter how many exercises I do, doesn't matter how many Instagram stories I put up of how I eat, how I raise my kid. There's just people that basically look at the exterior. They don't hear anything that comes out my mouth. They just see my size. And they instantly say, oh, look at her promoting obesity. And I'm just like, you don't know shit about me to say
I'll be
I'm
like,
promoting
click
obesity.
play. I'll be like, click play, because this is in the gym.
But here's the problem. For me, it's just like, why do I have to prove that shit?
You absolutely don't.
Why do I have to show up at the gym and do fucking, do plyo push-ups just for anybody to believe that I am quote unquote healthy? And I mean, really, when it comes down to the disabilities that I have, I mean, I'm healthy-ish, and these are things that's out of my control. When we talk about autoimmune diseases, and I mean, especially when it comes to the, the Black and brown communities, we're plagued with like lupus and type 1, type 2, all these things. And sometimes some of these things are outside of our control. And so for me, I'm always rooting for the underdog because I understand of where the history of where it started. Now, where it's going, I don't like the marketing. That's where my problem is. So I always identify these days with body politics, because I'm like, what I have a problem with is how whitewashed when it comes down to body positive. Because when we think about where the roots came from, it came from a radical movement where it actually came from, God, this escaped me. See, this is what happens when I don't take my damn iron pills.
Listen, you laughing, but if I don't take mine,
it's
shit,
real.
a nigga passed out on this bitch.
See, now, like, I mean, but when it comes down to
had to take my vitamins right before I got on this shit because I was faded.
We're getting older. We're getting older.
Well, listen, I've always had health issues. I've had health issues my entire life. They are not, as you get older, new shit shows up. Like you said, there's a lot of shit that is not visible on the surface. But anyone who's in my personal life that has known me my entire life, listen, they call me Bubble Girl for a reason. Okay, I'm allergic to Earth.
Oh shit!
I'm allergic to fucking Earth. So trust me, I feel you. I get it. I had to take a damn vitamin before I got on here because the bitch was fading. And I was like, sis, you leaning over. You need to sit your ass.
No, for me, it's just more like, I think the problem what I have with the term body positive is that it's always the same faces as shown. Like when I think about, when I'm always put into that, I love how I will go to a magazine and then I have to request. And I mean, I'm lucky that I'm in a place of privilege now where I can make certain requests and people will actually honor it. And I'm like, hey, can you not Photoshop that? Like I got a whole ass, like I know I'm shaped like a box. Leave my box alone, and then leave my bubble butt alone. Don't reduce my ass. Do not pull in, love handles that I don't have. Like as a photographer, I feel insulted when I can't, I can't recognize my own face. And I'm like, oh, who's that cute little Asian girl? Oh, the Asian girl is me. Because you done took down my nose. You done slanted out my eyes. And I mean, and I've legit seen this shit in 2014 with one of my photos. And my husband and I sat there on the set and was like, oh, these photos are going to be great. And then when the magazine issue came out, I was put in between the folds. I was the only Black person there. And I was practically hidden. And I'm just like, aesthetically, from a photographer's point of view, you would never, ever do that when you have someone who is actually the darkest person in the room in a shot. It doesn't make any sense. It's not that I need to be number one. It's just that why the hell did you cut me out?
Make it make sense.
Like, make it make sense. Like, why the fuck did you even bother having me in the room aside from tokenism? That was the first time I had been tokenized from a magazine. So I'm just like, oh, that's very interesting. But my problem with the body positive community, when we talk about the cliche of it, is one, it's typically white, especially when we talk about the influencers who make money. It's typically white. When it comes down to what I'm going to get paid versus the white influencer who has a third of my following, she is probably either going to get paid the same amount or more than I am, and she will not have to prove stats. She will not have to prove certain things. She can walk in and be bright and white and vibrant. When it came down to I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, I mean,
no, and be honest, because like you're educating me on this whole body positive industry,
right?
And for me, obviously, I'm not even about to sit here and pretend like I was in this shit from the ground up, because I was not.
I didn't know what the term was.
When it even became a term for me was definitely midway through it being a commercial thing,
right?
Which is why my view of it is the way my view of it is, because that's my introduction of it.
I mean,
so you are definitely giving me an education on it.
I was so open to it until I started being immersed in it, and I got engulfed in this field, and I was just like, why am I seeing the same faces? I see the same 5 faces. And then I realized, oh shit, I'm the 5th face.
I'm 5th face.
I'm the 5th face, so this is problematic. I'm like, why am I not seeing no dark-skinned women on this shoot? Why am I not seeing a person, you know, with a missing limb on this shoot? Wait, hold up.
Right.
What happened to the gay people? I'm like, hey, how you doing? Like, you know, why can't I see somebody with a rainbow flag, you know, in here? Why can't I see somebody that's non-binary? Like, this is problematic to me. So I'm just like, and then why is it a certain type of fat that you can present? So when I was a size 16, shit was sweet. When I started going up in higher in sizes, like right now, a bitch is 270 and proud, and I can line back. I can, believe me, I can knock down a couple of gates.
I'm gonna tell you right now, and you can still out push up me. Let's be clear.
No, but the problem is that even then, now I get different type of phrasing where it's just like, oh, well, we know that you gained some weight, but you're a different type of fat. And I'm like, can you define that? What does that mean? What do you mean by a different type of fat? You mean like, oh, I'm not jiggling? Or
girl, somebody told me I was a plus model. I said, bitch.
Like, it's just, you know, so for me, I find it fucking problematic.
So I believe you 3,000% because
right.
if my I was like, first of all, my frame is athletic. I've been this way, going to be this way.
Right.
I'm never gonna be any other way, and I like that. I mean, if God want to send me a little bit more ass, I'm not gonna be mad about it.
Listen, I just want my tits to sit up again. That's what make tits great again. Okay, listen. That's all I'm looking for.
But yeah, you know, like somebody was like, well, you know, you be a dope plus size model. I was like, if I'm a plus size, how does somebody at home who's actually plus size feel seeing me? Like, that would, like, if I was somebody who's really plus size
piss people off
in real life, exactly,
it'll piss people off, because
that's my fucking point.
Because like people ask me, like,
my point.
Because people are always asking, like, you know, why do I say, like, when I introduce myself, why do I introduce myself as a plus size or a black or a, you know, a queer athlete? And I'm like, until this shit is normalized, I have to put these prefixes on.
Yeah, because I want you to know. Let it be known.
I mean, until like you have a Runner's World or a Bicycling Magazine or whatever magazine out there that don't have to put a prefix, or the moment that I mean, the thing is, I technically I contribute to them and everything, and I respect that they're actually, you know, giving me a little bit of clout or whatever the case may be. But for me, it's just more like when you look at the comment section, anytime that I'm brought up in there, it don't matter what I could have saved people out of a burning building. The first thing they see is she's black and she's fat. How dare you belong in this space? Why does everything have to be about race? That's the first thing I usually see.
That shit irks my nerves.
It irks my entire spirit. And I'm just like, you know, like, you're like an irritable bowel syndrome. Anytime that I have to sit here and read your comments on here of, do we have to make it about politics? The idea that my skin is political is already problematic. The idea that 400 something years ago, we were brought to this country.
I loathe people saying that running is one of those sports where we leave politics out. One of the most iconic photos on planet Earth are two black men after winning a fucking race, with their fists in the air. It is one of the most iconic photos on the planet. We are historically a sport that has pushed the fucking political envelope. They didn't even want their black asses there.
Listen, I'm gonna put it like this because this is your podcast and we already been dropping F-bombs. Everybody want to be a nigga, but nobody.
It don't matter. This shit is I put my shit out where I want to.
Listen, no, like, it is literally a Paul Mooney quote. Everybody want to be a nigga, but nobody want to be a nigga. It is very true. It is the idea that we can borrow your culture. We can like it. We can clap it up. We can use all the AAVE.
We want your rhythm, not your blues.
Right. And that's problematic as shit to me. The thing is, I don't want it to be political, but you made it political. Right. You made my skin political. You made the fact that if I walk in with any type of rhythm, then it is political. The fact that you make fun of my nose, my lips, my hair, it is political. While
trying to mimic it.
Right. While trying to mimic it and get away with it. And will not even give credit to where credit is due. If and anything, you're going to gaslight the hell out of it and say that's not acceptable. The idea that I can dye my hair purple and green and shit is a problem. But when Becky in the office do it, you know, it's beautiful. It's oh, it's just so amazing. But me, I'm ghetto, I'm raunchy. How dare you
The
make
fact
yourself
that in the year of our Lord 2020,
21.
New York needed to pass a this was last year.
Oh, you're talking about
that New York, that New York needed to pass a law to make it acceptable for Black people to wear their natural hair to work.
I'm not
Lets you know that my very existence is political.
Well, I mean, but shit. I mean, if we're out here on ballots, you know, voting out slavery.
Hello, for the people in the cheap seats, like. So don't tell me, don't tell me why is this political? Why is this about race? Because this is the United States of fucking America. Right. That's why.
That's why. Like you just find every reason. Like you would rather, instead of bending forward, you would rather take yourself and shape yourself into a pretzel before you acknowledge me. And that's a whole fucking problem.
That's a problem. You bring up a good point with these people in the comments, because that brings me to Voldemort. She who shall not be named. This bitch gets no name time. She gets no name time. That bitch is Voldemort.
And that's exactly what I mean.
She thinks she's the fucking run police. Okay, she's somebody who she gaslights everything and then plays the victim. I've seen her do it 1,000,001 times.
I didn't even know who she was, man.
Let me tell you, because she's nobody to know. I've seen her do it 1,000,001 times. How I even came up on her to begin with is because she tried it with someone that I knew from the running community.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't really run anymore, kind of fell back from the community, but she had tried it with her, and sis hopped in that ass like a thong on a thick bitch, okay? She slid right up in her ass and let her have it. And that is how I was introduced to her. So, you know, I'm one of the motherfuckers that love a good motherfucking dragon on the Instagram. Hi.
And that's the thing. Like, and that's the part that I have to balance every day.
So I clicked follow, right? And for the most part, girl, you know I'm here for the mess. So I clicked follow, and for the most part, she was only harassing this one white woman. And I was like, yo, she needs a hobby. Like, why are you so pressed about this woman if you feel like she's cheating? So what? How's it affecting you? It's not bothering your life. Move on. Then she started harassing the brand. And then I started to see a trend. And I was like, oh, this girl is problematic as shit. And then me and her got into it on Twitter one day because she made a comment about the Bronx, like somebody would rob her. I was like, first of all, sis.
Oh God.
I was like, first of all, sis.
I have a story about that one.
So I had to get at this shit immediately. And she's like, no, you know, I'm just saying, like, and I was like, I don't give a fuck what you saying. Here's what I'm saying. Okay, live direct from the fucking borough. Keep your ass on your side of the bridge. If you're scared to walk through my borough, then you shouldn't be in it. Right. Also, you're in the whitest part of the borough. It's safe as fuck. No one's checking for you at all. And also, you have nothing. Just so we're clear, you have nothing at all. But when this shit happened with you,
I didn't even know who she was, man.
When this shit happened with you, because at this point, I had already had like several conversations with other people that I know in the run community that also are aggy with her, and that shit was like the final straw for me. I was like, first of all, sis, here's what you're not finna do. Here's what you're not finna sit on here every day crying this. People of color, you know, I'm also a person of color. I'm a Muslim.
That's the reason why I have a problem with allyship.
And I'm that, and then fucking make life difficult and literally cyberbully another woman of color. Oh, bitch, you got the right one on the right day with the right time.
Do you know how hard it was?
Oh, see, no, here's what we're not gonna do, bitch. No, the fuck no.
and that's the part and that's where it is still problematic for me to separate Latoya Shauntay Snell and running Fat Chef. Because for me, in the public eye, and because, and this is, I put the blame where it is. Yeah. People have put unrealistic standards on people. like screw the idea
that's the nature of humanity.
Right. Though. Like screw the idea that I'm hood famous, because that's what my son would call me. I'm hood famous. You know, like screw the I'm a little bit better than hood famous now. Like, you know, like a couple people know me if I travel. You know, like hey, how you doing? You know, the person I ain't never meet. I don't have stranger danger. See, that's what I became. You know, like, so it's like it's nice, but it is not, because then people put you on, like, if there was like 4 shelves, they put me on the highest shelf. And I collect dust until it's convenient that they have to pick at me, and they get mad at the dust. That's
right.
You know, and that's the part that I found problematic. So when this girl targeted me, it was through, I'll never forget it. I was like,
that shit seemed random as hell.
Like to be very, I'm gonna put out a warning for people. Like I was, I was suicidal. Like, and that's the part that I kept to myself. Like, people weren't here as I started starving myself. That shit triggered my eating disorder. Like, people don't like, and that's like another, that's the reason why I advocate as hard as I do in these spaces. Because when we talk about Black people and eating disorders and they see a fat bitch like me, they instantly say, oh, that bitch must be overeating. Look at her eating ho-hos and Twinkies every time she's
I'm probably the overeater in this conversation. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I'm a bitch that eat the 5 for $5 in one sitting. I'd be happy when McDonald's bring the Big Macs back.
Like the thing is, like, running, I have a love-hate relationship with it. Not so much because running sucks at times, but more like the community has a fucking problem. Where if you don't look a certain size, where and the thing is that the problematic part is I'm getting this shit from people who aren't even elite athletes, so I'm
and that's my shit with her. She swears to God she fucking
I've heard all these accolades that she allegedly have, but see, unlike
I'm gonna be honest,
I didn't have time to research her. I was too busy trying to book jobs, and you sitting here, you using your free time to slander me on the internet, and I'm just like, damn, you keep up with all the Instagram stories. Like, I'm not one of those people that just put up 8 to 10 stories a day. Like, a bitch got 36 stories up. Like, hey, let me take you through my day.
I'm not gonna hold you. When I first realized how much time she invests in that white woman that she was harassing, I said, sis got to get some dick or pussy, whatever she's into, and she's got to learn to knit. She needs to really occupy her free time.
Right.
That's too much time.
I count my blessings. I haven't had her disrupt my space in about close to 2 months.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's been close to 2 months, but it's like, why did it have to go there? Where now? Because the thing is, I gave her the benefit of the doubt, that the courtesy that she didn't give me, and the courtesy.
See, that's the shit I don't do, and I don't like when Black people do it. What made you do that? That don't even seem natural.
Business. Like, let me just go call a spade a spade. That's the reason. This is the reason why I say it is very hard to separate Latoya Shauntay Snell from running Fat Chef, because Latoya Shauntay Snell is a hood bitch. She's gonna let you know where to get on and get off. I always like to say there's Latoya and there's Shauntay, and Shauntay don't have time for your bullshit. Shauntay pops up at least once a month, like I had 2 days ago, where I had to curse people out online and say, do not fucking come for me for my size, don't correct my form, don't tell me shit, I have boundaries, leave it. And she's been surfacing a lot in 2020 all over again, but I started embracing the brand. Running Fat Chef. I am an entrepreneur. I am a person who, if I say the wrong thing, people are quicker to take me to court. If I sit here and I do something wrong, I don't just represent me. I represent my brands that I'm actually sponsored by. To know that my paychecks are dangling in the air with these at-will contracts of, hey, if you fuck up and act like a coon on here, then we're going to let you go. So when you know that your livelihood depends on it, because it's not like I'm looking, if it was just me, I wouldn't give a fuck, but I got my husband who has to keep this house afloat, as well as I do. I have a son who has type 1 diabetes. People don't understand the struggle and the bills that came with it. If I try to go back to the culinary industry, good luck, because like when I tried to in the end of 2017, the end of to the beginning of 2018, I was trying to get a regular job while being viral and still trending. And every time I landed a job, they're like, oh, I know you from somewhere. So I was getting either special treatment or I was getting fucked up treatment to the point where I just could not thrive in everyday life anymore. Like, it is a circus. I've lost friends from this. I've lost friends not because they're jealous of me. They're like, yo, I can't hang out with you. Like, yo, we can be friends in private, but if we go outside, I gotta deal with your entourage. Oh my God, this person wants to tell you about their life. This person don't respect your boundaries. And I'm just like, and I'm friendly. Like I'm hood. Like, don't roll up on me. Like, you better announce yourself. Like, call out my name. I would rather you say hootie hoo before you come up with me, because I travel with a knife. But like, you better the fuck up. Do not roll up on me. But at the same token, it's like there is a public face where, as much as it's like, I don't like this whole thing of, when they go low, I have to go high. I want to go petty. I was petty as hell when I started my blog. I
said this 2 episodes ago, when they go low, I'm gonna kick you in your face. Keep your fucking head up.
Right, like in August, like anybody, and I haven't removed my blogs. Anybody that's seen my blogs in August 17, 2016, up until about 2018, know that I was calling motherfuckers out. I was screenshotting, not wiping things out. I would talk about your mama, your friends, your best friend, your mama, your auntie, that no neck motherfucker that you friends with. I talked about everybody, and I had no problems and no apologies for it. But then I started realizing, like, if you start doing this shit so long, people can't tell the difference between the person who was actually being attacked and the person who is problematic in the situation. And I started arguing with stupid that I started sounding stupid. So I'm just like, I have to fall back. And then when was it? One of the sponsors, and I can't even call that this company is sponsored Skirt Sports. So I'm just going to say it for what it is. Yeah. When it came down to Skirt Sports, I went from supposed to be speaking at their retreat to all of a sudden I'm getting emails of people are screenshotting your conversations on your Facebook account, and they're saying that you're the racist. After I was getting inboxed N-words and a whole bunch of other shit, I had someone call me a nigger. So I wrote her back and I said, that's real cute. I've heard that. Can you get a little bit better with it? I was like, I like my racism, and I was like, I love it in full, full color. I want it in technicolor. Tell me what you really feel. The woman called me a jigaboo. And then started going further. Then she started to attack my kid. And that's a no blow. That's a low blow. Like you don't attack my family. Like you can say whatever the fuck you want to say about me. Don't attack my kid. It's like I'm not mean when I say that. I still have a list. I have 142 messages to date that was before I went viral of the hate mail that I used to get, and that was in 1 year. And the one that sticks out in my head is, no wonder why your child is a type 1 diabetic. He has a whale of a bitch for a mom. You have to understand that I'm serious. So the people that understand, when I lose my temper, I know I go full blown stupid. And I don't care about a career. I don't care about being the quote unquote running fat chef. I'm Latoya Shauntay Snell.
Yeah, like, and you're a mom. You're a mom first.
Don't come for my family. When this woman attacked me online, not even the week, I think it was the week of, I had someone, and that was the first time I actually had somebody invade my space while being in a public eye. Someone showed up at the REI event that I was doing, and he walked by, and I knew something was wrong. He had a MAGA hat on. So I'm just like, he walked by, and I'm like, you in New York City, you asking the big punch. And he says, so he's like, bitch. So I started laughing. I was like, crazy New Yorkers. We know how we are. Yeah. Crazy New Yorkers. He goes by again, stupid bitch. Oh, like, what the fuck wrong with this dude? So I'm laughing with my childhood, one of my childhood friends from like elementary school, because she came to the event and she's like, I wanted to show up and support. But I had my son behind me. Yeah. He's a preteen. Like, you can look at his face and you see he's a baby, but his voice was starting to crack. So, like sometimes you can get a little thrown off. And he stops the third time. He's like, Black women are weak. And he starts going in, and I'm like, sir, can you get the hell out of my face? And he's like, I feel like punching you. And I was like, who the fuck are you?
See, and for me, this is now, and here's the difference between you and I, and this could be rooted in the fact that I don't have any kids yet. So, so I don't have the forethought to protect someone else. It's just me.
Like I instantly I went into some other beer.
I'm immediately in an altercation.
Right.
If you threaten me, we are now engaged in a motherfucking altercation.
Right.
It's all Black Air Force One energy from there on out.
Right. And these are things that people didn't understand. Like I had this man try to throw a chemical in my face.
That's
while
insane.
I was right there with my son, and I pushed. When he started digging in his pockets, the first thing I thought was, "Oh my God, this is the way I'm going to go out. I'm going to go out protecting my son."
Girl. Keep a weapon on you.
Right. Oh no, I do. I've been doing that before all the public eye.
I'm from the Bronx, girl.
Right. Listen. Best die, do or die. Like I'm talking about old school Best Die, like Best Die, Crown Heights, East New York.
We from the city. Right. We grew up in the '80s. We are accustomed to being prepared.
Right. You have to, like, at all times. Like, I don't care about gentrification. Like, I'm sorry. Like, this is still the hood to me.
Because there's a whole channel dedicated to white people committing crimes. It's called Investigation Discovery.
Right.
They kill people every day.
Hello. Like, everybody, like, it is, when it comes to crime, it's equal opportunity employment. So I understand that shit. So, like, for me, that was the first time. And then it started becoming a trend where I would travel and somebody was using, I don't know who the hell it was, but people were using my calendar and they would like basically they would just show up at my events. And I'm
That
just
is
like,
weird.
so when you have to add that with someone who is basically stalking your Instagram account, and you have to keep it public because this is some of the terms that comes with sponsorship, that you have to be a public figure. And now I can't even curse you out. So now I'm pretty sure that some of the hate mail I got was from the same person because it kept coming up as the same IP.
I would not be surprised.
So
I
like
would not be surprised.
I get things like sometimes you get used to the phrasing, like some of the words would never change up, and I'm just like, damn, I'm like, do you not have anything else better to do? Like, what's going on in your life? And like, and the thing is, I'm not at a place where people are like, why don't you forgive her for how can I haven't I'm not in a healing
always
place.
Want black people to be the like we always got to be the forgiving one. No, I'm the victim. I am the victim.
But then you get and then what I would get, and I mean, this is sponsors included, where I would have companies sit here and tell me like, well, haters are going to hate, and I'm like, this is gaslighting. But see, in 2019, people
haters hating is somebody talking shit about my outfit.
Right.
Literally like disrupting my life. It's way more than hate.
This woman has gone as far as to contact every company that I was sponsored with, right along with companies I wasn't even working with anymore. And then because of her, like, because people are saying, oh, well, she has a small following. I'm like, no, on that account, she has a small following, but her other accounts,
she got like 2 accounts per social media
honey,
platform.
she got like 5,
she needs help.
And I didn't know any of this because I had to see. So the thing is, I literally had to tell my following, please do not go over there and bully and antagonize. And people are like, no, but I'm so angry. And I'm like, I'm angry too. But the moment that you do something, I get blamed. Not you. I get blamed. I'm the public figure, not you. You are the person who gets to, be at home and live with your family. And the first thing they're going to do is blame me, especially if it's a white ally that decides they want to do something on her behalf. It's going to look like, here's my white ally going trying to defend this angry black woman.
I really wish somebody had responded to my shit because baby, no, I had time. I had all the time. And she got that Esquire drag for filth.
And the sad part is, it's like, when it comes down to law enforcement, there's not enough internet laws to protect.
Well, it's not, and it's hard. First of all, the law is well, it's not that it's hard to prove it. It's that the internet is much faster than the law. The law in general is the Titanic, and the internet is a scooter.
Right.
That shit is changing and moving all the time. Where it takes so long to actually make a law a law. By the time that law is in place, the internet
is something else.
Yeah, that shit is a whole different animal that we're still not prepared for. So it's so impossible for the law to keep up with like the way the internet changes.
Right. Because people,
nevertheless, always the more. Motherfuckers gotta know that shit's not okay, which is why when I saw that shit, I hopped on her page and I was like, first of all, you're a stalker. Second of all, this is harassment. I said, honestly, I feel like if you saw her in person, you would probably assault her. I hope that she goes to the police. I hope that she gets a charge against you. I was like, because this is crazy behavior. You're unwell. You are unwell. You need to get help.
And it sucks because you get to a place, like for me, the first month, I felt I couldn't trust being inside of the running community because it's not like I just had white people after me. I had people who looked like me, people who I ran with started changing up on me. And I'm talking about people, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Let's go and have let's have a drink afterwards. Let's go grab something to eat. And then all of a sudden, everything I did for that year, I was overshadowed with, but you're a cheater. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, and the thing is like, and I mean, I had the whole race fucking, pretty much write me an email directly and say, hey, listen, we apologize. You got rerouted. And I had no fucking idea. Because usually I'm not a stranger to being rerouted. Yeah. They give you the option and like, hey, listen, you kind of slow. Yeah. So here's your options. We can drag you off this goddamn course or we can reroute you. And I have no problem with being transparent, especially as a person. Like you've seen how the fucking vibes with me. Yeah. I go up there, hey, mile 1, I'm on my phone. You see the bobbing head, a bitch is running. Mile 2, feeling like shit, but I'm still running. And I always kept it funky. So I'm just like, for anybody that's been following me to come with me at this energy of she has to be cheating, I'm like, I literally
this is the shit. Here's why that shit irked my nerves. Did you place 1, 2, or 3? Did you,
honey?
So why the fuck does it even fucking matter.
I mostly
If
place
you're not
dead
placing
fucking last, okay?
I'm like, you motherfuckers are the same people that complain. So this was the shit that got me going to begin with. I'm like, y'all are the same people that complain, well, she's so slow and there's cutoff time, so I don't know why she show up at the race at all, to now being mad that she quote unquote cheated. Well, she's not winning the fucking race anyway. So what the fuck does it matter?
Like, I was just like, pick a struggle. Like, for
she's
me,
not gonna this is not gonna be no Olympic qualifying time at this fucking marathon. So what is the real issue?
I had a woman that like basically tried to antagonize me in 5 groups, in 5 online Facebook groups.
See, that's like, too much time.
Yeah, and I was just like, hold up. I'm like, she's like, sis, use a walker. I'm like, first off, bitch, don't call me sis, okay? And then she tried to turn it around and say, oh, what? Why you gotta use profanity? I'm like, wait, hold up.
Because I chose to.
I'm like, you follow me at the 5 groups. And then you wanted to sit here and talk shit about me, knowing I'm in these groups, that I can read these comments, and you think I shouldn't come for you sideways? Like, honey, if you can't eat what you served, then what the fuck are you cooking for? Don't do this. Don't do this. If you don't want that energy, don't bring it up. Like, I don't know you. Why are you coming at me? We as Black people already have enough struggles.
We got enough problems daily.
And as a woman, we know what it is to be oppressed, and you're trying to entertain people inside of the group, particularly men, because a lot of the guys.
That's the pick me shit. That's the pick me shit.
Like a lot of the men that I read the comments from, I was like, all right, you know what, I'm used to it, like, and it's like it's not something that I should be used to, but I'm like, yeah, it's not uncommon for men to shit on other women, especially Black women. Anytime that some men get a chance to, they'll say, oh, see, this is why I choose white. See, this is why you can't mess with those ghetto girls. See, I told you she was a high school dropout. That's the reason why she talks like that. Oh no, honey, like, you don't know the reasons why I had to leave. So like, and the thing is, I'm not entitled.
And shit, I talk the same way. I talk the same damn way, and I'm very, 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 very educated. My degree bigger than half these niggas' apartments. So the fuck,
but it's the gaslighting for me. Like the idea that the audacity of you to feel like I have to prove something to you.
First of all, I'm so baffled. I knew that you were being cyberbullied because I've obviously seen the comments. Like I said, I've been following you for a while, so I've seen comments on your page. I had no idea though that it was to this extent.
It was.
Like, it's really mind-boggling to me. I mean, it's already an unsafe existence as a Black woman in America. But to hear it, in real time, magnified by notoriety is crazy, but also for me affirms something that I've always said. I've always said I want to be anonymously wealthy. I never want to be famous. Like I took a long time to start my podcast because I never wanted to be in front of the camera. Like I want to be behind. I want to be the oil that gets the machine running behind the system. I never wanted to be the person in the front of the camera. However, my personality is what my personality is. Right. I'm very often thrown into the front, whether I want to be there or not. Right. And when I first, like when social media really started picking up and I used to be on Twitter all the time, I was like, there's no way that I can start a successful podcast because my clapback game is official. Right. And the fact that I know how to track down an IP address and turn that into an address means I show up at your motherfucking door and address you face to face. And I was like, and this is not healthy, because if you put yourself in the public eye, you know that some shit comes with it. But there are some things that come with it that are not acceptable. Right. And I knew that I wasn't in a space to deal with that. I'm a lot older. I have a lot more to lose now, being an attorney, having my businesses, and just being in a different space. Actually, really just living outside of New York City. Because when I'm home, I mean, the minute I step off the plane at LGA, JFK, Newark, Bronx starts kicking immediately. I mean, the minute I step off the plane.
But it's definitely
so, being in a different environment has allowed me to do that. But just to hear it again and to feel like the anxiety that it brought on you, like that shit agitates my fucking nerves, yo.
Like, I mean, you hear that bullshit analogy: if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound?
Like, sure it do. Just because your ass ain't hear it, don't mean it didn't make the sound.
But I felt like I was the person, nobody heard me. You know, like the analogy was completely wrong for me. Like when it came down to as many times as I would, and the thing is, people saw what people interpret it as complaining. I call it advocacy for myself. If I'm not willing to
Yeah.
advocate for me, then who the fuck's going to do
It's
it
only
better?
complaining because you're a Black woman.
Right.
That's why it's
It's
complaining.
not
'Cause you're a
only
Black
that.
woman.
It's only that. No, people like the idea of fixing people. People like the
Oh,
people love
girl.
being people
People
love
love to solution for
right.
non-problems. I
People
am not
love
your
being
problem. Do not
right.
solution me.
Right. People love being Olivia Pope, but they don't realize Olivia Pope had fucking issues. And that's the problem
Several.
with this space. You know, the problem in this space is, well, I can't fix you. So can you shut up? Because you make me feel uncomfortable. You starting to make me, so you bringing up shit that's going to trigger me. So I only care about me at this moment. I want to get my viewpoint across. I don't want to hear what the fuck you got to say. And I couldn't see it as that when it came down to February and March and April. Like in the beginning, all I knew was nobody's listening. Nobody gives a fuck. People are giving me band-aids and I'm still bleeding. I'm bleeding from a stab wound, but y'all motherfuckers want to give me band-aids. Well, I guess I gotta heal myself. And the only way I knew how to heal myself in 2019 is to adapt. So I started reducing myself. I started reducing the way I would speak. I started taking the turn the other cheek shit, even though in private I'm
Making
like,
yourself more
fuck.
palatable.
Right. Making myself more palatable for white people. Like to be very blunt. Like it was because the thing is, and Black people. And even when I did that, I still wasn't good enough. And I wasn't, and the thing is, I was just like, why the fuck am I trying to make myself palatable to people who ain't gonna like me regardless?
Correct.
And that, so for me, I was just like, if I gotta choose them and choose me, I'm gonna always choose me. So after a while,
Right.
I just said, fuck this shit. Like, you know, your way didn't work. You told me to be quiet. I'm being quiet. Now you get to still speak. You're not only you're speaking, you're yelling. And then you're trying to interrupt and disrupt anything. Like there is no redeeming from this. Even if I did something wrong, I will never be redeemed in your eyes because you elect to not see any good qualities in me. And for that, I might as well just be myself. Like it feels great to be myself every fucking day. That's why when people say I don't like you and this and this and why, because I'm the biggest gaslight that I would get is people would they would compare me to my friend Myrna Valerio, and I'm just like, damn, are we the only two fat Black people that you know? You know, like, you know, why can't you be more like her? What? Oh, you mean articulate myself, get a degree? What do you mean? Like we're two different individuals. Just because we're from the same neighborhoods, you know, essentially does not mean that we're the same people. And we're great and dynamic in our own ways. Her way of approaching things is a beautiful way. But my way of approaching
her, and
it works for her.
Wrong with that.
But there's nothing wrong with the way that I approach it. You don't like it because I'm rough and rugged and, you know, I'm raw and I keep it too real. You beg for realness online and then I give it to you. You don't like the taste and fuck you. I'm not for you. I'm not supposed to be palatable.
They want for real. Don't nobody want for real.
Right. And I'm like, you can't ask for my honesty. And then when you get the honesty, oh, you know, can you take that back? Can you send that? I'm not a restaurant. I'm not a fucking restaurant. You can't send back this order, baby. Like I didn't walk the fuck out. Like skip out of the bill. I don't care what you got to do. Don't show back up. Don't show back up. I'm not begging for followers. That's why I try to understand it, but people understand. I loved the freedom that I had. Because the thing is, I have more of an illusion of freedom these days in 2021. I love the freedom I had in 2016 before sponsorships. Don't get me wrong. I love the platforms that I have. I love being able to bring awareness, but it comes at a cost. People love what you are able to provide, but they don't love you.
And you know what? It's interesting or accurate rather that you say that. I say this to my clients. I've got many clients that are like branching into various parts of the entertainment space, and you know, they started their thing on their own where it was their own authentic voice, and now that they have these larger platforms, I'm like, you know, when I sit down with them and I'm like, you know, are you okay with this? Because what you need to understand when you sign this is that the voice that got you here is not the voice that they're actually looking for.
Right.
You're going to lose a lot of your voice in taking on this contract and taking on this opportunity. And it's a great opportunity, but I just want you to walk into it knowing the actuality of it. It's not going to be what it was. And that's why I'm personally extremely hesitant when brands reach out to me. I'm like, I'm good. When marketers reach out to me, I'm like, I'm not gonna hold y'all. Maybe one day down the line, I'll be with the shits. I don't know that I'm in that space yet. I prefer, like, the whole purpose in having this platform is so that we can be unapologetically Black
Right.
women,
Right.
unfiltered,
Right.
uncurated, good, bad, indifferent, happy, sad, mad, angry, all of that. And I don't want that morph into something that's palatable.
Right.
I don't want that morph. And so I, I'm always just like really interested in watching how people I know in person that are, grasped and clasped to a lot of brands, how they navigate that shit. Like for some people,
You,
like in
yeah.
Allison, I
Yeah.
think I think it's easier, and I don't mean easy at all. I just mean
Right.
slightly easier, because I don't think Allison's approach is as abrasive as a you or a me.
Right. Right. I
But
agree.
I also know it's difficult for Allison, because Allison also has like her own quiet health issues, again, that you don't see on the outside, but that
Right.
she deals with every day, that she, shares with us online, and when she's comfortable doing that.
Right. Right.
And I'm just always like, I remember when she linked with Lululemon, a lot of people were in her comments really, really excited. And I hopped in her comments and I was like, sis, I'm gonna need some explaining, because Lululemon don't fuck with Black people. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna need
Mm-hmm.
the math
Mm-hmm.
to math.
And that's
I was like, you gotta show me something good. I was
right.
like, because your platform has always been that you are for women. You
Right.
are like, you show up for women, but you show up for Black people. You show up for Black women, and
Right.
they do not. So I'm gonna need you to make the math. And so we had a
Make it make
dialogue.
sense.
Yeah, and we had a dialogue about it. She was like, first of all, sis, is why I love you, because you always go call some shit out.
You have
Yeah,
to.
this is who I am.
But
And
see,
she was like,
but that's the reason why when you brought up, why Runner's World.
Yeah.
The first thing for me is,
well, she had a similar response in the fact that this was now an opportunity.
Yeah, but the thing is, my whole thing is this: please call us out.
Yeah.
And I'm not whispering that shit. Like this is something that's going to be shared and people can hear this over and over again. Please call us out, because the thing is, the norm is only the norm because we allow people to create the norm, but the norm is only created by 1%. If you do not put that pressure on companies, on brands, on all these places, then the norm is going to stay the norm. The thing is, people may not like change, but the reality of it is that there is a demand. When it comes down to fashion, when it comes down to our dollar, the idea that a Black dollar exists in the community for 6 hours, like, it shows that we are buying into this shit, but we're buying from us, from white people. And if you allow these companies and these places to dictate what is quote unquote trending, and you as the buyer don't understand your power, that is a problem. So for me, I'm just looking at it as, well, I do find some of the things that's problematic, and I silently call it out. Like, I don't, like, I definitely can't go into detail on here, but I silently call it out. And the thing is, I need more people to do that. I need more people to feel, empowered and inspired. So if it means I have to use your own platform to say, hey, listen, this is what I see as a problem. Here's where I see as a possibility, where I can actually now, as the businesswoman, and I have to sometimes tuck away my hood card, because a lot of times it wants to come out, but I have to tuck it aside. And I'm like, how can I go from a business perspective and say, hey, listen, so I understand from a business perspective, this is what's worked for you in the past, but the market is changing and these issues are real. And even if I'm not with your platform, these are still going to be my everyday real life issues. What are you going to do? Because people do not like telling their stories and feeling like they've been fucked in the ass. Like, you don't do that. You just don't do that to people. And a lot of Black people stories, especially when it comes down to the marketing and body positivity, when it comes down to the uses of AAVE and advertisement, when you see the way that they see us. And they see us for something that's valuable, but they want to give you the illusion because it's cheaper to keep you at a certain place. When you think about diet culture, when you see all these companies and you see the advertisement is mostly marketed towards women and their insecurities, and they say, oh, well, the man is losing 5 pounds and the woman is only losing 1, but if you buy this product, you can be just like him. This is the narrative that we're selling with brands. So for me, at times, 3 times a week, I think about, do I want to stay in this space? That's my real life internal struggle of, do I want to stay in this space where I know that the fitness this industry at times, most times, is full of shit, that is not here to actually fix people, but to actually keep people actually in their place, to be
Absolutely.
able to make money, so it does feel dirty. But the thing is, you can't clean some shit sometimes being on the outside of the platform. Sometimes you have to go in, and you have to be that voice to actually say, you know what, I can change this shit. But it's not going to come off like if I yell at you and you yell at me, nobody hears each other. Nobody wants to give a fuck. Nobody wants to fuck with each other until they fight. So my whole thing is this: if I don't want to scrap with you, you don't want to scrap with me, and we just waste energy, then I gotta meet you at some place, and I'm gonna force you to hear me. And the thing is, you may not like it the way I presented the first time, but I bet you if I'm persistent, you ain't got no choice but to respect me the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, because I will always hold you accountable. And that's what I try to do, and I intend to do, regardless of who's rooting for me or not. Fuck them. If they don't like, if people don't like me, then you ain't gotta fuck with me. Ain't nobody begging you. Like, honey, I know what it is to be broke. I'm still broke. So like this is the illusion. Like when people were sitting here saying, oh well, look at her, she thinks she's better because she got these sponsorships. I'm like, honey, do you know what it is to have an influencer contract? Because most of us don't get paid like that. Ask us about our taxes. Ask us about having a publicist and then having your publicist take off certain money. Ask us about the books that you're going to get and knowing that the book is done, the book done promotion that they give you don't mean shit if your book doesn't sell. That you only, if they only cut you a $10,000 check, then that's all you're guaranteed. But then you have to pay the editor, that you have to pay this person. Oh, well, that person contributed. Before you know it, like you're paying taxes on $10,000 of stuff when you only made $3. So when people sit here and try to tell me about what I'm making, what I'm doing, what's my intention, I'm like, fuck you, ask. And if I choose not to, and I elect to not tell you, guess what? It's my prerogative. It is my prerogative. I don't owe you shit. Because aside from my mom and my daddy, I don't remember none of you motherfuckers being in the room when I was born. So like, and that's the reason why I keep it so honest and I keep it so funky, and I don't put it out there in a PC way. Now there's some things where I do have to sit here and say, okay, I got to be mindful. I'm like, I'm speaking to adult children, so let me phrase it up a different way. I would never speak on Good Morning America the way I'm speaking here. Like, because the thing is,
I wouldn't. It's very funny smart. You say that. I was on a podcast, and it was not taped for TV. They actually didn't have a TV deal yet, so they didn't have any TV time yet. So it was taped for regular Spotify, regular platforms. And as always, I always ask up front, I'm happy to give you Latasha Lessington Esquire if that's what you need for your platform. But if what I'm saying, if T from the Bronx is invited, what I'm saying, she'll show up. So I asked them, and it was very, oh no, go ahead. We curse here, everything's fine. And then they got their TV slot and they wanted to run the pod. They wanted to run the pod I was on. It was a really, really good topic. It was a great pod. And they chose to run it. So they had to edit it. And I was watching it. I was home in the city and I was watching it. And it's so funny. It sounds like a fucking Samuel Jackson movie because I curse a lot all the time. And so it's like bleep, bleep, and I'm like, and so I'm like, so I'm like online responding to comments about it. I'm responding to people that are texting me about it. And I'm like, if I knew it was going to be tape or TV, I would not have cursed as much. Not because I don't curse and not because I find an issue with cursing, but because I know for that medium, for that platform, there's a better way to get my point across without you having to hear beat, beat, beat every 3 fucking syllables.
But here's the thing, and that's my reality. I have to, when I wake up in the morning, I treat my life as if a camera is always on me. And it's a pressure and it's a weight. I will not censor that for anyone. It is a pressure and a weight. When I think that I'm in a supermarket and nobody recognizes me, I can have an inbox out of nowhere. Oh my God, I saw you at the supermarket. I didn't want to approach you, but I took this picture of you. Holy shit.
First of all, that's weird.
That's creepy. But thank you so much for actually respecting partial of my space.
That's weird.
Hey, I remember what you said back in 2017, and you said this is in this line, and I'm like, fuck, did I say that? Like that's my reality. My reality is I am always on anxious mode because anything's a soundbite. Anything that I say, anything I do right now, this is a soundbite. If you decide that you want to sell this podcast, 5 days from now, and somebody says, "Oh, let's take this statement, and this statement," like when it comes down to let's say for instance, my Huffington Post video. One of the sound bites that was used at the very beginning, the video was like about no more than about like a minute and a half long, right?
Mhm.
So now you have this video. Now they interviewed me and they had the cameras rolling on me for about what 3-4 hours, but the interview starts off with fat shaming can kiss my goddamn ass. That's the opening line. And
That's
me,
quality clickbait. That is
it's
quality
quality
clickbait.
clickbait. And the thing, don't get me wrong, like, I mean, I authorized, I knew what I signed off for. And I was like, yo,
Yeah,
I'm like, whatever way. And then the thing is, I'm very unapologetic about it. But the thing is, I intentionally know walking into the room, the moment that camera crew walks in,
yeah,
everything is a soundbite.
yeah,
Everything, even a wrong movement. Like when you look at reality TV shows and the person is looking off into the corner, if their eyes are really open, guess what? That is a quality image. And I
yep.
know that as a photographer, that the person could have been crying, but that's quality gold for me. If I'm
Oh,
working for a
facts,
newspaper, I need to
facts,
get that emotion. I need to be able to tell a
facts.
story without words. And because I know that shit, I have to be able to separate Latoya Shauntay Snell and Running Fat Chef. It was something that my publicist told me off the bat over and over and over again. And I was like, how can I separate somebody when they're the same? And she's like, yes, they are the same, but they are different. When people approach you,
Mhm.
this is what they're looking for. They're not looking for the total of you. They're looking for the work in progress in you. And every time
Mhm.
they tell you that they're interested in you, yes, they're interested in what you can provide, but they may not be interested in the whole person. If they decide to be friends with you down the line, understand there's no friends in business.
At all.
They are friendly, but there are no friends in business. There's are people who I've sat here and shook hands, and they take me on trips and they pay for this and this and this and this, and a year later they fucking hated me because they realized this was not a joke. Like, this is not, like, literally, like, if when it comes down to how I speak, how I articulate myself, when it comes down to my business voice versus the person that you see on Instagram, they are all the same people, but
Yeah,
it's layered. So when you talk to me in inbox and say, hey, let's negotiate contracts, you are going to get a layer of
a
me
very different
of
approach.
whoop,
Yes.
wait, hold up. What, she wants what? Wait, how dare you demand that price? Well, you obviously saw something in me that was marketable, so you can either make it happen or you can stop wasting my
Yeah,
time. And
like
you have to know yourself better than the internet knows you. And the thing is, the hardest part is to remember who you are and how you started, and to
mhm.
remain humble. Not so humble that you don't get paid, but to know your worth so much as you grow. And that's
Mhm.
where me as an artist, sometimes I struggle, and that's why I look for people who are not enablers. I can't get people. I
Yeah.
have too many people around me that's like, yes, you burned down a building, you did that shit with style, honey. Oh yes, work it. Now I'm getting
See,
locked
now
up.
let me tell you something. I'll be like, okay, sis, you burnt that fucking building down, but I'm charging full price for this
Right,
representation.
right. And the thing is, you have to
I'll
understand.
see you in court at full price because you
Right,
were crazy for that.
right. I can root you on and still tell you that you're full of shit. So
Yeah.
and that's what I look for when it comes down to building the team. When I work with companies, like, sometimes I know my voice sounds abrasive, but the one thing I learned to do really quickly within a year, I told myself, do not apologize. If you knew when you walked into that conversation or you typed out that email that you felt every ounce of it, say it with
Mhm.
your whole ass chest.
With
So
your whole
I
chest.
choose I choose everything as a soundbite. I am deliberate, as Audre Lorde said. I am deliberate. Do not fucking mistake in that.
Yeah.
So if I say in an email that this is too low, I really mean it. If I tell you, hey, listen, you are not going to offer me product as compensation, that is a real thing.
That
When
is
companies,
so insulting.
it
And
is
that you know
insulting.
what? That's a topic for a panel discussion
Right,
because
right.
man, listen,
But it's heavy. Like, I mean, we can't even cover all the topics in one
we
podcast.
we we can't. I want to get to your cooking because
Yes,
when I found you, you were doing more cooking than running,
yes,
and
girl.
then the world shifted.
They
So
have no idea. Like,
and then your world shifted. But
right.
cooking was your first passion. How'd you get into that?
Cooking is actually a love story of my dad and I being in the kitchen
Oh,
and actually cooking through poverty. Like, a lot of the reasons why I am in this space is because I will never ever forget what it is and that feeling in your stomach to be hungry
yeah.
constantly and not be able to do shit about it. And my dad was not someone who you would look at in a history book and say, "Oh yeah, he was the shit." My dad was on drugs. My dad was the person from a old school Kevin Hart special, because I don't find Kevin Hart to be as funny anymore.
Yeah,
So
he's kind of falling off.
yeah, I mean, he's
I
Hollywood.
still laugh. I'm not
I
gonna
mean,
lie. I still
right.
laugh, but I don't
Like,
laugh the same.
Like, right. It's because the thing is, I mean, like, here's the thing about being in the public eye. Sometimes, even I catch myself at times when I start talking about, when people are like, they like, oh my God, I would love to go to this place. And then I'm like, yeah, well, I've been here. And, when I went here, I did this and this. And I realized I have a disassociation, that I don't speak the same as I was. And the thing is, everybody grows. And, but I realized that me becoming cultured and being able to experience certain things now puts me at a disconnect with people who have not experienced certain things.
Girl,
And
I learned that lesson early in life.
right,
But that's because my life was the way my life was.
Right. So the thing is, you don't reduce who you are, but you have to acknowledge the people in the room, and you got to make sure that you don't disconnect from them so much that they can't even see you anymore. They're trying to figure out who the fuck are they talking to. And the thing is, you're the same person, but you've grown, you've matured. And the thing is not a shot against either side. So that was the one of the things.
I'll be honest, he's just not as funny as he used to be because his life is not as dysfunctional.
Right.
Bottom line, the same way when Mary's going through some shit, we know we getting a good album.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna take a fucked
Trouble
up Mary over
shit.
a happy Mary any day of the week.
A Trouble album artist. So, I was a like better.
That, listen, good art comes from quality pain.
Right.
Period.
Right. I was a better poet. I write better than pain.
Me too.
Let
me tell you something. I wrote some shit yesterday. First of all, that I was in the process of writing something that I'm working on. This shit came to me and had nothing to do with the project I'm working on, and I just ran with it. It is the first thing that I've written and really loved in like 6 months, and loved. And it came purely from a fucking agitation of the heart. Purely. It is what it is. It's fucked up that that's how we consume each other as humans. But that's quality pain is quality art.
Because
and when he was going through divorce, we were getting some quality shit.
Right.
And then he got happy again, and this shit went downhill.
But here's the thing: people are so fucking scared to be in pain. People are scared to tap into.
People ain't built. I told you, people ain't built.
It ain't even about being built. Is about what life has painted us, and so does this bullshit narrative that everything.
But it is about being built. It's about being built because everybody's not built to be a whole person.
That's true.
There's so much honesty you have to have with yourself in the mirror to experience your pain and say, yo, I really feel fucked up. I really allowed this to happen to myself, or I really did that to somebody and I feel fucked up that I did it. I can't believe that I gave this much to somebody and this is how they hurt me. Or I really allowed myself to be used, abused, mispositioned. How did I really feel about myself to allow that to happen to myself? There's so many honest conversations you got to have with yourself to admit you are in pain. And a lot of people aren't built for those kind of conversations with themselves.
Listen, when I talk about one first thing I do when I do panels about allyship, the first thing I do is I tell people the only way you could be an ally is to admit that you're actually toxic. Everybody's fucking toxic, and that's the problem. Everybody wants to say, oh, but that person, like the narrative. Oh, but he's a great person. Oh, he's a great person, but he's still a scumbag and a racist. Okay, so your Uncle Johnny, he may have done great things for you, but what he's done for everybody else, he's made fucked over the world. So these are the things that I've looked at with my dad. I had to acknowledge the highs, the lows, and the downright unforgivable with my dad. My dad and I had a relationship with my dad. Has been gone. It'll be 12 years on January 19th. So for me, when I think about my dad, the great memories and the painful ones came from the kitchen. I learned everything I needed to learn through that kitchen. That kitchen table was Switzerland. That's where it was a place that I knew I wasn't going to be hurt. I wasn't going to have to deal with my dad's rage of possibly having something thrown at me. I wasn't going to have to deal with the abuse when I sat down in the kitchen. When I worked with him in the kitchen, I knew that he's going to have a cigarette from the side of his mouth, and it was going to be wagging, and it will never ever fall because his Newports, not Newport 100s, are not going anywhere. But at the same time, he was going to talk to me from a place of love that he knew how to provide it, because my grandmother was not good with actually saying to her kids, especially her male kids, that she loved them. The way that she treated them, because my grandmother's from the South. My grandmother's from Florida, actually, from Mulberry, Polk County, Florida.
Oh God, Polk County's a mess.
You know that they are a whole ass mess. Polk
County is a mess.
Polk County, like when people say, "Oh, where your family from?" I'm like, do I have to admit it?
Familiar.
do I have to tell you where they from?
I'm very, very familiar with Polk.
But the thing is, it's like with my grandmother, she had a lot of issues with colorism. So the way that she would talk to her kids is she would treat them by their shade. So the way that she would interact with me was a way different experience than she would interact with my dark-skinned sister. The way that she would interact when she looked at my dad, she was just like, okay, you chose this chocolate woman, that's low to her, and so when you acknowledge the toxicity that you experience with your family, sometimes we unknowingly pass that shit down the line. And my dad had a lot of fucking demons. And I couldn't see that shit when he was alive. I just kept looking at it as, how could you give me all this great advice and be a walking contradiction? And I realized that's just life. A lot of us are great motivational speakers except to ourselves. And my dad was not an exception to the rule. When it came down to him, around the neighborhood, he was charismatic. People looked at it as, oh my God, you guys are so fortunate. Like, to be a product of the 80s and to have a 2-parent household was like fucking gold. They didn't care that he was on drugs. He's a family man, and he goes out there and he makes sure that your family have a meal. And I'm like, yeah, at what expense? He just sold the VCR because we have to make some money. Oh, well, the drug dealers are probably going to beat his ass because because he probably stole some of the crack. These are some of the painful. And the thing is, sometimes I don't feel comfortable explaining those stories, particularly to white audiences and communities, because they hear it and they treat it like an Antoine Fisher story. And it's like, all my life I had to fight. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. It is part of my experience, but part of my experience was growing up. And regardless of what time it was, my dad would find ways to bring home money to make sure we ate. And he taught us in that house. With my sister and I, he taught us how to cook. My mom, she was a 9-to-5. I'm straight laced. I don't do these things. They were complete opposites on the spectrum. But I got a lot of my colorful mouth from my dad, and he's like, and the one things that he always taught me was, when it comes to men don't apologize for shit. They just do. And he's like, what woman, y'all just got. He's like, y'all always apologize for some shit. But then I would see him, put his hands on my mom. And I'm just like, damn. I'm like, how could you be the greatest thing that never happened? It hurts, but the things that I hold on to is the way that we could take scraps and make it into something, exquisite. I learned, and that's where my passion came from with the culinary industry. So when I got older, my mom was just like, I want you to be a lawyer, a doctor, because she looked at it as, you're so goddamn good with numbers. Like I'm kind of a little bit of a freak at times with numbers. Somebody can tell me something and they say it to me. It's like marketing to me. You don't say your social security number around me, because otherwise I remember it. I remember that shit.
And duly noted.
Right. Like the note to self. Don't say your bank account information, your credit card, like that. You just don't do it. And I'm a freak about numbers, and I will repeat it. And she's like, how the fuck did you know that? And I'm like, oh, you said it this night, this day, at this time. Like I literally was that. It was to a point where at one point I remember one of my teachers actually, was like, are you on the spectrum? And I'm like, no, I'm not on the spectrum. I just remember shit. Like that's just the way of my memory. Because of course you can't be black and dynamic.
And smart. The audacity.
No.
You must be on the spectrum.
No, you have to be on the spectrum. And it's not a shot to anybody that's on the spectrum, but that's the way.
But it's an absurdity.
Right.
To ask that because of that.
Right.
Asking, am I on the spectrum?
Yeah.
Because I'm good with numbers is absurd. With numbers.
Right. I mean, the idea that, I still remember having 4 people check behind me on a test because they thought I cheated. And I'm just like, wait, hold up. Like all of my grades show that I was an A+ student. Yeah. And now you think I cheated on this whole ass test because I didn't work it out. So I had to do the test. I had to do 4 different tests in front of them. No calculator.
Did you have white educators?
Yes, I did.
That's why.
And
I was very fortunate.
I didn't get that energy when I had my black and my
I was
black
very
teachers.
fortunate when I was young. Most of my educators were women, 1 women and 2 of color. I was very fortunate, very, very fortunate because they always I was like most of us, just very, innately smart.
I had a mixture.
Always did well. And they always supported it, encouraged it, hyped me up, pushed me to do more. And I know, or at least I've learned, and before I was a lawyer, I was also an educator.
Right.
I know that is not the case very often. Right. And there are some excellent white educators. So this is definitely not a slight to white educators as a whole, but I've seen it with my own 2 fucking eyes. When it is not us educating our own, the lack of care, concern, understanding, communication, support, encouragement is lacking.
It's
it is lacking.
very.
And often with the people that it's lacking in, it's intentional.
Right. Right. You know, and that's the part that hurt me, because when I think about, like, when, you know, when people are like, it didn't make any sense. So like when I dropped out of high school, I dropped out of high school for 7 gym credits, ironically, to be in this fucking sport. You know, so when I say with my whole ass chest, I did not plan on being a sponsored runner. I really fucking mean it. That it was not an
That is the
intentional
full circle
act.
I needed.
Yeah, that is like life was just like, ha ha, I'm gonna spit smack you right here with this running. Here's these sneakers, bitch.
You're gonna get these 7 gym credits.
You're gonna get these 7 gym credits. And like, my ass was the smart girl who was terrified to be smart, because people associated with whiteness. When people hear me speak like this, hi, how you doing? People automatically put me into the white box. I was Oreo. I was always Oreo. And it didn't help that I was super light skinned it. You know, we gotta say skinned it. You know, like, I mean, because like you can see my hand on this side, like I am like I got a tan that has not gone away for about 7 years because I've been running. But let a girl stay in the house and don't be underneath an easy bake oven. I'm gonna be light as shit. Okay. So like, because of it, I already had my stigma where I was told for a lot of my life, you're an Oreo. Like, you don't listen to certain music. You're too cultured. You know, like, and I'm like, that was like, I mean, you can't be that in the 90s. Like, you had to be listening to Biggie and Tupac and this and this and this. And here I am, you know, the kid that was listening to everything. And even in my own household, as much as it as toxic.
This is all very relatable. Just, I mean, not relatable in the sense that I felt a way about it, because that had always been the running joke. Like, it was always the running joke, because I was the nerd. I am a nerd, and I'm okay with that. I've always been a nerd. I've always been a dork. Those are absolutely adjectives that are accurate about me. Those things never offended me, because I'm also fly and I whip your ass if you step out of line. See, those things also are accurate descriptions. So those things never bothered me. Like, when I was young and like my friends first started dating boys, like I was like, I'm not fucking dating no boys. Boys are problems. All I do is hang out with boys every day. I know that they are problems. I see it. I see what they do every day. I don't want to date them. They're assholes. I don't want nothing to do with them. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer from like the 3rd grade. I was like, my grades got to be good. I'm very focused. These motherfuckers ain't about to veer me off course. Y'all bugging the fuck out.
Girl, you don't even understand how much of a superpower
the running
you
joke
have.
started being, oh, she's such a nerd. When she finally loses her virginity, it's gonna be like 3 + 3 equals 6.
No. Like, hell, coming out the closet was already fucking hard enough. Like, I waited to my whole first year of marriage to fucking come out the closet. Like I mean, yeah, I waited until first year, and I was just like, I'm looking at women too damn much. And
did you not know before, or did you just not feel comfortable?
I knew. I mean, in hindsight, I realized that I pushed off a lot of it because of the homophobia that, you know, that ran rampant in my own family. I mean, my dad freely threw around the F word. We ain't talking about fuck, you know, like that word was thrown around. And then one day I remember him, like, I mean, like, in hindsight, I realized in his own weird way, he was trying to get me to come out the closet, you know, because, you know, black people, the way that we love is different sometimes, especially that old school black love.
It's traumatic. It's a traumatic fucking experience.
But I remember one day because, like, you know, we always joke about fucked up shit, and one day he said, he's like, just admit that you want a little fucking carpet munches sometimes. And I was just like, excuse me?
Wow, Dad.
Like that, my dad said, like, you think I'm blunt? My dad said it with his whole ass chest. There was no filter with him. And he would just randomly, like, after a while, when you start hearing shit over and over again, it might have a little bit of truth to it, of how a person feel about you. And I realized in so many ways, my dad was trying to just basically say, like, we know you bisexual. Like we know it, we can see it. You stare at women a little bit too hard at times. You know, your mannerisms change, and this and this. And I didn't realize how much it was showing, especially because I can own it. Like me, and as 35 years old, you just stop giving a fuck. Like you hit a certain age. Like when you say that you think you don't have any fucks to give, the older you get, the less amount of fucks you have to give.
I'm over 40. I don't even know where they sell fucks.
Right. Like you can't. Do you buy them shits out of a grocery store? Like I'm like, is there there an island of fucks? Like, is there a financial portfolio
I'm still trying to
of
figure
fucks?
out where they got the fucks to begin with, because I
Right.
came out the womb with no fucks.
Right. So like, for me, it was just like, it wasn't embraced as an 80s, 90s kid
Yeah.
to basically be that, like, you were a wild freedom, a free child. You have to sit at the freak table, and then people, especially as a woman, you're labeled with these other stigmas of, oh, that means that she likes, she could bring home another girl if she does
Right.
it.
Right. They
Oh, well,
fetishize the
it's
fact
right.
that you are bisexual.
Right. And I'm more of like, if I was not with my husband, I would be more like an aggressive femme. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and put on a tie. Like, I mean, everybody has their thing. For me,
Yeah.
it's like, I like being able to switch. I like being able to wear androgynous stuff. And then there's times where I'm like, yeah, I'm in a girly mood. I'm in a mood where I want to do my nails. I want to do this. Like right now, I've got no fucking nail polish. That's something that's an anomaly. That don't happen, especially as a chef. You don't wear no fucking nail polish. So
that
for
is
me,
an accurate thing for
right.
chefs.
That's
true.
So like, you keep your nails short. So when people are like, oh my God, like, you got on tips and you got, like, I didn't even know that you dress up, but it's because most of my comfort zone comes in this hoodie. I wear a hoodie. If it was up to me and I wasn't in the public eye so damn much, I'd be probably wearing saggy ass pants. That's how my energy is. And it throws people off because I have such a quote unquote masculine feel that I didn't realize how much it was actually showing to my dad. My mom, not so much, but my dad, he saw it. And that's the beauty of, like, and I'd like to kind of bring it back to the whole kitchen experience. The beauty of the kitchen is that when it came down to like losing my virginity, my dad knew. He knew before my mom. When it came down to telling things like, like, hey, Dad, I like this person in school, and he would just laugh and say, "Oh, go tell him." And this will always happen in the kitchen. So to me, the kitchen is my version of church. Like,
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
I'm not religious, because I'm a person that dipped and dabbled in like 5 or 6. And my dad was like, all right, go ahead. He's like, I know next week is Jehovah's Witness. The other week's going to be the Muslim in the Nation of Islam. It's cool. Go ahead. Let her be a free spirit. Let her figure out what she wants. And my dad was super respectful of it.
But good on him, because a lot of households of color really don't give you that kind of freedom to kind of sort yourself out and figure out who you are and determine what is your religious background, if there is a religious background for you at all.
Right. And like, for me, I'm just like, I'm the hippie. I'm just more like, I treat people with the same respect that they treat me. And I hope that there's something, I hope there's a mythical man in the sky that's going to actually look over me and be like, hey, bitch, you ain't that terrible, so we can let you in. But,
Listen,
I'm just at a place where I just don't know. And that logic may change in the next 5 or 10 years. I don't put any limits on myself when it comes down to spirituality. I just don't like I don't like the marketing.
I'm not a fan. Listen, for me, I am not a subscriber to organized religion.
Right.
I believe in a higher being. I'm extremely spiritual. I absolutely believe like in the earth and the planets. I don't think that we're all here operating independently. I think that everything absolutely affects one another. I'm one of those people. So, like I say often, depending on what's your tradition, I might seem non-traditional.
Hello.
But this is who I am. Did I grow up in the church? Absolutely. Like most Black people did. I grew up in the church. But I left the church at a young age because I recognized very early that organized religion was not about communing with God. It was about money. That was my experience in my church growing up. And I took my leave at about 10.
See, I was a little
I told you I came out the womb with minimal fucks. I came out the womb. I came out the womb with minimal fucks. And the reason why I was in church every weekend is because I stayed with my aunt on the weekends. And that's where she was at on Sunday. So it was not like I had a fucking option. I had to be where she was going to be at. This is where the guardian has me.
I'm not asking you. You're going to bring your ass.
You're going where I'm going. So once I got out of elementary school at 10, I no longer was spending my weekends over there. And I was like, oh, I ain't got to go over there no more. Bet, because I'm not fucking with that. Like, I'm not going to hold y'all, but I'm not going to that shit no more.
Yeah.
I'm going to read what I need to read here, and I'm going to commune in my way, but I can't do that shit.
I think more of my confliction with it was my conflict with it was more like there were questions I would have and nobody would have the answer, and the answer was gaslit with, you just have to trust in him, and I'm just like, who is him? You know, why can't we celebrate this? Well, why can this one celebrate but this one can't? And when I started, I'm naturally inquisitive. I will ask, like, I am not afraid to say I don't know some shit.
Yeah.
I pride myself on saying, bitch, I don't know, but can you tell me? Can you guide me in a direction of telling me so I can figure out the answers? That's the reason why I'm a documentary buff. That's the reason why I read biographies all fucking day long, because I love being able to ask those questions and figure out the way people think. And for me, I didn't like the idea that people didn't have no fucking answers for me. And then when it came down to some of the, like when it came down to the monetization and like, okay, here's the 4th plate, here's the 5th plate, here's the 6th plate. And I'm just like, oh, Pastor got some cars, but I can't feed anybody.
And that is what escorted me out the building.
Right. This is supposed to be community. What's going on? And I'm just like, where's the religion in this? I'm like, because this says this, but this contradicted. And then when it came down to me questioning my sexual identity at young, and I'm talking about the earliest memory I have from that was I went to a sleepover and I forgot what game it was. It was really, really fucking innocent or whatever. And one of my friends sat on my lap, and I in hindsight, I could say I had a crush on her. And she sat in my lap, and I didn't understand how sex organs, how these things work. So I was like, oh my God, is it going to be like the porn that I secretly watch? And that means that I'm going to have a boner and she's going to feel it. She got to get off my lap. She got to get off my lap. I don't want her to feel it. And I'm like, because, I was doing badass shit. Like, like anybody, all them kids been watching Skin and Matt.
I was about to say, okay? Every single one of us.
Listen. How many times you turn on the volume? Turn on the volume and make sure the back button is on Cartoon Network.
First of all, we used to call kids and still whoever had a big brother and steal their fucking tapes.
Right.
Like, yo, bring over the chips.
Yes.
We're watching the porn.
But that was literally like, I remember just being so engulfed in the female anatomy, and I'm just like, wow. Like,
it's so funny. I think of how ignorant we were to sex, that we would caucus as a crew and watch this shit and laugh and joke. We were so ignorant.
Right. Because I would watch that shit like it was a whole ass show. Like I wasn't.
Yeah, this shit.
It wasn't until my teenage years.
Part 3 drops.
Right. It wasn't until my teenage years where I was like, oh, okay, so I can use this as a muse to masturbate. Oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna find out about the rest of how all the rest of this shit works. Like like for me, when I was looking at it as a kid, I was just like, wow, that's intriguing. Oh, so this is how you love up on a person in a different way. Okay, cool. Like, so how do I write a love letter out of fuck me in the ass? Okay, cool. All right, this is the way that my brain kind of worked. So when you don't have that person, and the thing is, when I got my sex education, it came from my dad. Ironically, it came from him first.
I got mine from school first.
My dad drove me around.
3rd grade scared me straight. That's why I was a virgin so long. They showed us syphilis, chlamydia on the genitals.
Oh, see, they were good. Grade. And they're not even teaching these kids this shit no more.
That's why these kids are fucking stupid. Right. Bro, they showed me this shit in the 3rd grade. I said, you bet not touch me. You bet not kiss me. Don't hold my fucking hand. You got diseases. I don't want it.
No, my dad, he drove me around Lincoln Town car.
I was scared straight from 8.
10 years old, drove me around because I got my menstrual when I was like 8, 9, and like even with the story of my menstrual is traumatic. Yeah. Like I had my menstrual in front of a sexual predator, and that's the only thing that stopped me from getting raped. So like a lot of my trauma, and I literally didn't say that until out loud until I was in like my 20s to actually say that, because I'm not a first time sexual assault victim, because most times, so a lot of people don't realize, like when you're a sexual assault victim, most times it's not like sometimes when you are targeted, then sometimes it means that you might be targeted again. And so for me, like a lot of the work that I do, like running is just a muse to be able to talk about deeper issues. And that's the reason why I stay in this space, because I'm like, okay, I have this platform. What the fuck am I going to do with this platform? Yeah. Do I really care about the money with this platform? Because I know easier ways and less exploitable ways I can make money in the platform and make more money without having all this attention. Because don't get me wrong, I love my followers, but then I hate the ones that start, feeling so goddamn comfortable that they feel like, oh, now, hey Tay, now it's not even Latoya anymore. You start giving me nicknames. Hey Tay Tay, wait, who the fuck Tay Tay? Who the fuck Tay Tay? Wait, hold up, we didn't get there. I don't even know your number. I don't even know your telephone number because I don't remember it. Bitch, I don't know your
I would
telephone
remember
number.
it.
Like, bitch, I don't even know your number. Like, hold up. Where the fuck did Tay Tay come from? Like, that's not even my name. My name is Latoya. Or even call me by my middle name. Call me Shauntay. Like, but Mrs. Snell, if you're nasty. Like, who the fuck is Tay Tay? You know, so like, it's just so weird, like, you know, being in this space. Like, you know, but my dad was the person who literally gave me my fucking sex talk. I was 10 years old, Lincoln Town car. Now, you know, this shit is telling. Lincoln Town
I'm
car.
about to say my granddaddy had a Lincoln.
A Lincoln Town car, and that shit was a beautiful red. And he's just one-handed it, and he starts off the conversation, and I cannot make this shit up. And I'm glad that this is an uncensored podcast. He's like, Kettle, because he used to call me Kettle because I'm loud. And he's like, Kettle, I learned how to raise my dick when I was 10 years old. And I was just like, what? Like, I'm sitting in the front seat. We breaking all different types of rules and shit. I ain't got no seatbelt on because in the 90s,
we didn't no seatbelts back then.
I didn't give a fuck.
They threw your ass in the car. They got going where the fuck we was going.
And I'm like 5'3.5" as an adult, so you know my ass was short. So I'm just sitting there and I'm sinking down into my chair like, is my dad really trying to tell me about his dick?
That is so.
And he's
funny.
just like, he's like, the point of this story is y'all kids are nasty. Fuck what your mama said. She lost her virginity at 17 to me. Here's some condoms. Don't ask me to teach you how to put that shit on. Go talk to your mama about the rest of the shit. And he literally laid down the whole thing, and his whole Bible, his whole Father, Son, Holy Spirit was, listen, do not bring no funny letters in this house. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? STD, BD, AIDS.
That
like my dad was a whole trip. Like when people say like, yo, this shit sounds like comedy, I'm like, no, this is a Black real life that I lived. Like, I mean, like, but all these conversations, and most of these conversations from the heart came from the kitchen. Like, that was the beauty of it, is that most of this shit would happen in the kitchen, because outside the kitchen was dysfunctional. Like, I mean, like, you know, to know that your dad is the neighborhood crackhead, and then like, you know, your friends, your friend's dad is probably
mean.
Kids ain't shit.
Kids are mean.
Kids ain't shit. Like, you know, like, I mean, there were days
I wasn't shit.
Right, like shit, I had ain't shit moments, even though I was going through shit. Like, I was like, oh,
my uncles were on drugs, and I still would smoke you. I'd be like, and your mother's still a hoe.
Right. Like, I mean, shit. I would sit there and I'm like, oh, look at Stinky Aisha coming to class, and Aisha. Like, I mean, I wasn't shit. You know, like, what kids ain't shit. And that's why I always try to remind my son, like, you know, kids ain't shit, but you will grow from this. You will survive this. And the thing is, you ain't got to normalize that the shit is definitely wrong. But know that, like, one day you're going to stunt on these motherfuckers. Like, you're going to be able to look back and like, ha ha, bitch, I made it. You know, and the thing is, that's what I needed, you know, as a kid. Like, they was, especially when it comes to female kids, they are so busy trying to make us adults. They always trying to groom us and tell us, like, you got to do this, you got to do this, and you ain't going to get no man if you don't do this. If you don't do this, then nobody's going to take you serious. Oh, what else you got to offer besides your pussy? Like hold the fuck up. Like, I'm just trying to learn.
I'm not offering
I just want to play my Barbie dolls. Let me play my white Barbie dolls and let me leave me the fuck alone.
Pussy. I saw the picture in 3rd grade of chlamydia and syphilis. I'm not even offering them.
Like sit your ass down. Like, can I learn the ABCs before you try to actually make me a handmaid's tale?
I know what you niggas got, and I don't want it.
Right. Like, you know, like, so, like, I mean, you know, I thank my father for the things that he's tried, because I realized in hindsight, when I started learning more about my roots, it was all my dad knew was hostility.
Yeah.
You know, he grew up to that. So sometimes you take all that shit that you inherit and you pass it along to your kids, and then it's up to your kids to decipher it. And I always told myself, when people are like, oh, you raised your son all white, and I'm like, define white. I'm like, what? But because I don't beat the fuck out of my kid until he's crying to every syllable. I'm like, listen, my child knows the I. Like, while your badass kids may not know the I can look at my son and I can give him the look of death, and he's like, okay, mom.
He know the real life shit in.
Right.
Really,
and that's enough. But I like to talk to my kids. So we sit down, we have coffee breaks, and he's like, Mom, can I speak freely? And I'm like, sure, I'm sure. I don't like this shit. And I'm like, all right, cool. All right, cool. Let's talk about that shit. Because I'd rather have that relationship, because I realized when my dad was talking, I had more of a respect for him when he was talking versus when he used his hands. He was scared the shit out of me. And the thing is, for me, because I grew up with so many people who put that fear in my heart, I really walked around here. And that's the reason why I'm able to jump out of a fucking airplane and do these fucking, like, you know, like sign up for, hey, I'm going to sign up for a marathon. I'm possibly not going to finish. You, like, when you have that level of fear in your heart and you know what that shit feels like, it is really hard to be fearful of motherfuckers that haven't even earned you.
Oh, listen, let me tell you something. I tell people all the time, and if you haven't seen, there is a doc on Netflix called Crack. It's about the crack era. I
Oh,
tell people all the
damn.
time, I survived the Bronx in the 80s. Bitch, I'm
Yes.
not scared of you.
Right. Because the
I there's
80s,
the 80s,
the 80s
baby,
was, it was
listen.
different. It was different. That
It
was a
was
drill.
very
That's a thriller
different.
set.
I
That's
grew up in the burning Bronx.
right.
You think I'm worried about your ass? The
Right.
fact that I'm here still? Listen. God's grace and mercy. I damn sure ain't worried about you.
Right. That's the reason why, like, when it comes down to this running community, people are like, oh, it's so white. And aren't you scared when you go through this? I'm like, no, I'm like, it scares me when it's quiet. And when I go to
I'm
these,
more concerned with my safety as a Black woman,
right,
just period. Not
right,
as a part of the running community, just as a Black woman,
right.
period.
But I walk around with white men energy. I walk in
Oh,
like
you
I
got
own.
to.
I
Oh,
walk in
I
like I
walk
own the
around with
fucking place.
mediocre
Right.
white male
Male
energy
energy.
because they
Right.
got that shit in
Right.
spades.
Right. Like,
That shit is on
so, like,
another level.
to people that's like, oh, I feel offended by that term and this and this, and I'm just like, like when you
It's a
show me
real
the
thing.
lie,
It's
then
a real thing, though.
and I'll apologize for it, because when you walk into a room and, like, let's say that you're working at some corporation, it is amazing how everybody in the room, you don't have to say who the supervisor is, you feel that energy. The energy shifts. Everybody adjusts for that person who is the supervisor in the room because they have supervisor energy. Don't tell me that I'm not entitled to have that same energy when I walk in the room. I am 5'3.5". Like, you might as well say I have a Napoleon complex. Listen, I am going to walk in there like my dick is on the floor and I am 6'4". Okay, that's the respect that you are going to give me,
I love
because I
that.
am going to make sure that not only am I going to make you understand and recognize my gangster, but I'm going to make you earn me, and I'm going to earn you
I
at the
love
same
that.
time. Like, it's not a one-way street. It's not like I'm gonna walk in and say, oh, well, you may have read about me on, like, I'm gonna give you my fucking bio. You may have read about me on Huffington Post, Good Morning
You
America,
got to walk in
Today
with my
Show.
Uncle Al's
No,
energy. My Uncle
right.
Al always says the resume speaks for itself. You know what it is.
Hello. So I'm gonna walk in there like, yeah, this is who I am, and I'm like a fucking Eminem 8 Mile track. Like, I'm gonna tell you all the fucked up things against me that's gonna work against me. Why? Because you'll never ever have the satisfaction of
I
using
know
it.
that's right.
And that's the reason why a lot of people hate me in this space, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, because what? Because I'm able to put out some shit that you so busy trying to hide. That's not my problem. That sounds personal, Susan.
That is problem. That is
That's
a personal problem. A
that sounds
personal
personal
problem.
as fuck, Becky. That is not my problem. That's not my problem. If you don't know yourself before I walk into the room, that's a whole ass problem. I should not have to ever define who you are, because I'm not going to wait for permission for you to define who I am. And that's the energy that I'm going to
A
keep.
lot, you know what, and that's very common in the influencer space. I was watching,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called social
Oh,
something.
yeah, the
It's
social
a doc
dilemma.
on. Yes, I watched that shit when
Mm-hmm.
it first dropped last year, and all they did was validate everything I had been saying about motherfuckers anyway. And
But
I
it's
like to
much
be
more.
correct. I enjoy being right, so I thoroughly I thoroughly enjoyed it. When Buddy asked, he asked one of the girls, what's your brand, and she was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, you said you're a brand, so
Your
what's
brand.
your
What do
brand?
you sell? Right. What do you
Like,
have?
what is your brand? Like,
And,
what?
like,
And
somebody come
she
up to
had
me.
nothing. And I was like, this is what I be telling y'all
Listen,
when y'all be
if
talking about
somebody,
this influencer bullshit.
right?
You
See,
don't influence anything. You
shit.
don't even know who you are. How
But
can you influence anything?
but the question is complicated and it's simple. When anybody walks up to me and say, "What's my brand?" It's myself. I am
But
the
no,
fucking brand.
but
I am literally
this
the
is what he
fucking
asked
brand.
her though. She said she was the reason he asked is because she said she was a brand. He
Right.
said, okay, then what's your brand?
What's your brand?
And she didn't have any answer. So
Of course.
if you don't know who you are, if you're your brand and
Right.
you don't know who you are, how can you actually influence anything?
You
You
can't.
can't even influence your fucking self.
No,
You
you're
can't convince me to sell nothing. You
honey.
can't even convince me. You know you.
Right. You're a fucking puppet on the string. So the thing is, like, that's the
And
reality of it.
that's
But that's
most
most.
influencers.
But even
That's most of them.
even I
And that's
fall
why
into the
when this
trap
shit
sometimes.
dropped last year, I was like, well, that's another correct for me.
But the thing is, like, it's very easy to fall into the trap, because the reality of it is that you like, a lot of us will walk around and say, I'm real, I'm real, I'm real. Okay, like, how real are you when they think of that $3,000 paycheck at you?
I'm gonna be honest. You ain't gotta really, if you real, you ain't gotta announce that shit.
Right. Like, that's the reason why. That's why when people are like, "Oh my god, I just love you because you're so real and authentic," and I'm like, "Which parts of me do you think is real and authentic?" Like, like I have to ask. I
love that you said that, because that's exactly why whenever I have a guest on, I always introduce how I got introduced to them and why I asked them to be on. Right. Like, be clear. If I'm telling you I fuck with you for a way, I'm gonna tell you why. Right. If I say I think this of you, I can explain to you why I feel that way of you. I can pinpoint when I decided this is how I feel about you.
Right. And it's just too many people out here in this influencer space who have no idea of who the hell they are, but they are going to, like, I mean, look at it. Like right now, like literally, like after we're done with this, you'll see the fucking video, the fuck shit I just put up. Now I done trolled the hell out of that damn busted challenge because I'm just so tired of everybody fucking busting it and grinding.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not wasting my good knees on no busted challenge. I'm gonna waste these knees on somebody's son.
No, you know, right. Hello. I'm probably gonna do that afterwards, after this shit is done.
And we applaud you.
Hello.
No, we applaud you.
But when I saw it, I just said, "Oh, look at all these goddamn imposters. Nobody has an original thought." And don't get me wrong, nothing's really original, but I'm just like, okay, everybody's doing the same shit. So I was like, you know what? Let me be authentic to myself. And now here's me branding myself. I put up a damn video. My busted challenge is me eating my motherfucking cookies, putting up a goddamn boba tea as I am working out. Why? Because the stereotype is I'm fat and I'm running and I'm black and I'm hood as shit and I'm always cooking and eating something. So you know what? Let's run with this damn narrative.
I'm gonna be honest. Like, you be cooking up some good shit. I be like,
I love to cook. I
be scratching and sniffing the fucking screen. You better scratch and sniff.
Listen, they got to come up with the technology now.
They really do.
They got to come up with the technology now.
I be like, that shit look good. I be like, shit. Next time I'm in Brooklyn, I'm stopping by.
You better like shit. Like, listen, I will give you the damn address. Listen, it's not that serious. Like, shit, like, listen, call me. Like, oh, I'm around the corner. All right, cool. Let's do it. Like,
say less.
Like, you know,
I will write the number down though, because I won't remember it.
Listen, it's just no, but it's you know, like I mean, the problem with this space is that there's too many motherfuckers out here teaching everybody else how to live, but they don't know how to live for themselves. Like, I mean, this is the reason why I keep saying even my content is curated, because I'm only going to show you what I'm.
All content is curated.
Everything is curated.
All content is curated.
So when people are saying, "Oh my God, you're so real," I'm like, "Yo, I'm not about to tell you about the insides of my vagina."
Right.
I do, but I can't tell you what happens to my vagina. That, you know, it bleeds, and sometimes it goes a little berserk, and sometimes I have health issues that come with my vagina because it decides that, oh, today is just the day that I want to give you all the cramps, stab, kill. You know, it's like I feel comfortable at this stage of the game, but when I sit here and I see people on here, everyday people demanding things of influencers of, well, why don't you talk about this, and why don't you know what? Listen, when Becky with the blonde hair decides that she don't want to speak about Black issues, respect them, but respect Becky's truth that she don't want to talk about Black issues because she ain't trying to involve herself in it. So now that's when you have an option as the person who is looking at this account to follow or to unfollow. So like, don't sit here and beg Becky on her platform. Why are you begging for fucking seats when you can build your own table? So my whole thing is that I will never understand. Fuck your table. I'm not going to beg another influencer as a fellow influencer, bitch. I'm not demanding you to do anything on your space. Your channel is your channel. That's how you run your shit. But on my channel, around these parts, we're going to talk about Black History 365, even when I'm smiling.
I don't have any issues clicking unfollow. My tagline is, you know, I'm better than most people, but I'm humble enough not to tell them. And I don't hesitate to let people know that like a lot of the actual influencers that move the dial, that are getting big money out here, I'm your biggest influencer's biggest influence. I'm their big sis.
Right. And
I'm their big sis. Nobody's leaning, like, no one leans into the bullshit.
Right.
Not anybody that's really getting the work done.
Right.
They're not leaning into the bullshit. The people that y'all are following that are fucking, I don't know, selling you slim tea, which is probably just a laxative. They don't fuck with no real people in their real space.
Right.
That's why they can't do no real shit with you. That's why they don't have any real shit to offer you.
Right.
Like, use your fucking noodles. How can you be influenced by someone who can't articulate who they are if they are their brand?
Right.
That shit blew mine, because I was like, I tried to tell you nigglets, but you nigglets didn't want to hear me. You know what I'm saying? When y'all be like, oh, you know everybody, I be like, I might know everybody, but I don't fuck with everybody. Pay attention to who I fuck with. I do know everybody. I fuck with the same people.
Right.
Stay alert.
Because the thing is, like, you could be a network with somebody and not respect them. You like somebody might have something, maybe that their only purpose is that they have something to offer and you have something to offer them back, and that's the limitations of your conversation.
Yeah.
For me, I'm aware of a lot of people. I don't fuck with a lot of people as much as I'm gladly I did, especially these days. Clearly define myself as an extrovert or introvert. I do not fuck with a lot of people.
I think most people are. Yeah. I think most people are little column A, little column B.
Right.
Like I don't like categories that try to make things.
Yeah, like
that's not life.
It's not.
It's not the truth.
Life is gray area, and then the thing is, the more that people respect it and acknowledge it, the happier will we fucking be, and the more that we can stop sitting here trying to like give everybody fucking rose tinted glasses.
Yeah, I mean, some days, yes, I don't mind being the life of the party. Other days,
listen,
I don't want to hear from another human being on planet Earth at all.
Like, my whole thing is this: I would not have a platform if I listened to everybody. When I created Running Fat Chef, people were like, "You are out of your fucking mind." Like, and the thing is, yeah, like first off, when I started my Instagram,
I thought it made complete sense when I found you. I was like,
yo, for me, because to them, people were so fixated on the word fat. Like, you can say that you're running, you can say that you're a chef, but how dare you say you call yourself the thing that people weaponize against you every day? Like, when people are like, oh, well, if you lose weight, are you going to still be Running Fat Chef? Yes, absolutely. I will just change it into a different metaphor. I am fat at heart. I eat fat shit, whatever the hell way I want to phrase it and call
all the fucking time.
Right. I'm gonna shape it whatever way that I want to.
Yeah.
Mine. But when I started this platform and people were like, "You really gonna start off?"
Oh, girl, they was mad you wasn't powered.
They were big mad. They were big mad. Like, motherfuckers were mad because my first blog entry was about shitting on myself. Hey, how you doing? My name's Latoya Shauntay Snell, and I shat on myself in mouth 4. And people are like, "Are you out of your fucking mind?"
Yo, but mad runners shit on themselves. That shit really happens.
I'm like, why are we not talking about these stories? I'm like, listen, I shat out red. I panicked. I went to the doctor. My doctor was like, yo, are you eating beets? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you stupid bitch. Like, he didn't say it like that, but he's just like, you stupid bitch. Of course you're going to shit out red. And it's going to run down your leg. And this is what's going to happen if you eat the wrong things at the wrong time. So like, I had to learn along the way. Because I took people through my hiccups, my highs, my lows. Yeah. And so when people were like trying to cancel me, like in 2019, talking about, oh, how dare she write an article called How to Gracefully DNF, and I'm like, bitch, you act like it's not real.
I missed this whole cancel thing.
This fake outrage that people
had. I missed it. I missed all of it. I don't know how. I'm very active online.
The only part that hurt me is when I was able to identify the faces beyond the screen name, and I was just like, God damn. I'm like, I help you run. I help you start running. When you ask for advice and you sitting here feeling lonely, I'm like, I didn't look for a cookie because, oh, wow, she started running because of me. Like, that's not in my bio. I'm just more like, my whole point of my platform, when someone asks me, it's a brand, an individual, what's the point of your platform if you hate the cancel culture that come with it? The reason why I thrive is that I intentionally put my shit out there because I want people to use me as a muse. When you are an educator, and for me, I am naturally an educator at heart. When you are an educator, your purpose is not to sit here to be the smartest person in the room. It's to use your intelligence to uplift other people so they can spread the word. So at some point you become the fucking student. So for me, I want to be able to learn from my audience at the same while they're learning from me. So here's my mistakes, here's my highs, here's my lows. How can you do it better? So I can in turn do it better. So this shit can be a 360 cycle. This is the whole thing of us earning each other, not just some one-way shit where I just talk at you. Because I don't need people to talk at. I got a lot of people I can hire to fucking talk at. But it gets lonely. It gets lonely as fuck knowing that when I'm being tokenized, by certain companies, or they're like, hey, can we use your convenience? But hey, can we use that little pretty little shiny little picture that your husband took that we ain't gonna compensate him for? But even though y'all are 2 different individuals, and now I have to speak up and be the fucking pink elephant in the room and say, hey, he's a whole ass person, not Latoya's husband. Can you please compensate him
and the professional
for his
professional,
for his intellectual property? And now I have to speak up, but because when I set the precedence for not just me, but for everybody else that walks in behind me. When I leave this place, I want to be able to leave behind a fucking legacy, not an Instagram handle of I am L Shauntay, not my brand Running Fat Chef. I want motherfuckers to know who Latoya Shauntay is and what she's about. And whether you acknowledge and respect me now, I don't give a fuck. You respect me from the box. I don't care if you piss on my grave. My whole thing is I respect myself the entire process, and nobody can take that shit away from me.
That's the perfect place to close, because ain't shit to be said after that.
Yes, girl.
Ain't shit to be said after that. I OD appreciate you coming on. I will let the people know where they can find you on Instagram. I will let the people know where they can find the dope hoodie you're wearing on Instagram. Running Fat Chef. Make sure that y'all check her out. Make sure you support. If you have not caught your Black Gyrl SOS merch, you know what it is.
Yes.
Look alive, www.brandsnobby.com. All the links are in the bios. I appreciate y'all rocking with us. And until next time, y'all have a good one.
Peace.